Hey, and welcome to episode number 65 of Killer POV. I'm your co-host, Rob G. from FEARnet, Icons of Fright. Sitting with me is Elric Kane.
All by ourselves.
Inside Horror.
Yeah.
Owner of the Jump Cut Cafe.
Yeah. And other stuff.
Contributor to Gore Zone magazine yet? No, that didn't happen.
I haven't finished that. But at least I did the Monty interview.
One day contribute. Yes.
One interview at a time, guys.
The Monty interview happened. So
that did happen, and that should be on the Iguana Blu-ray from Raro.
Great.
They do pretty... I don't know if they're an American company. I think it's Italian. They do a lot of the police... how do you say that word?
Oh, the Polizia Tecce.
They do a lot of those.
Yes.
They have some really cool titles, but I think maybe it's a U.S. wing of the same Italian company. And it also helped me get a trivia bonus round victory with you against you. I don't think your team was playing in it, but your team won overall. But at last week's Horror Trivia, we came very close. And I was in a 4-way tie, I think, and we do a quick bell.
Oh my God, that's hilarious!
And so we get up there, and it was just the best. For me, it was the best timing ever because the question was, who plays the bad dad in The People Under the Stairs? Right. And I didn't. From the moment the question finished to my hand hitting the bell, it's just like there was no time. Everyone else still looked blank, and I just yelled Everett McGill, and then I just peacocked.
Oh my God! Elric screamed it out, and then pumped his fist in the air, and went through the crowd before anyone could even say right or wrong.
Before anyone said right or wrong.
It was amazing. I
did the shotgun into the wall, going, "I know you're in there, boy." And the reason I got it so quickly, I never probably would have been that quick, but for the week and a half before, all I'd been thinking about was this movie Iguana and this interview I was doing with Monty Hellman. And the star of that movie is Everett McGill.
Wow.
And so that's all. It was like the best question that I could have been fed.
I love how timing works like that.
It really is fun. But that was a fun, I think that was the most fun I've had at trivia that night. I don't know why. Maybe it was just the chemistry of the teams.
Yes.
And we were pretty bad at starting, and then we had this nice comeback, so it just felt fun, you know? Mm-hmm. So I can handle losing as long as it's fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, as you probably can tell, Rebekah McKendry is not with us tonight.
I'm going to be honest, I hadn't even noticed. But that's probably because you put 2 beers in front of you.
Yeah, you've got 2 beers in front of you. That makes up for...
You probably heard her last week, and you heard that kind of rough cough of hers last week. So she's going to get better and be here next week for sure.
We hope. She wanted to be here, especially for this particular guest, but she is bedridden. Mm-hmm. So we're going to try to carry on our best.
Wish her well on the Twitter.
Wish her well on the Twitterverse. So that's that. But figured we'd cut right into what we've seen this week, and then we're going to bring on our guest and a cool topic that ties into the movie that our guest is most well known for.
I say we mix up and go 1, 1, 1, 1.
Do it.
That way we won't bore anyone.
Who wants to go first?
You.
Me? All right. I just finished up house/dog sitting for somebody, like I mentioned last week, and the joys of that is getting to go through people's collections, see stuff that you don't have.
Right.
So I finally revisited Alligator.
Oh, yeah. One of my old times.
I love that movie, but I haven't seen it since I was a kid.
Oh, really?
I had a vague memory of it.
And it's not really a kid horror film. It's very much an adult horror film.
I remember specifically, and I tweeted while I was watching it, and people were replying to me the same moment that scarred them, which, again, was messed up. But it's a really interesting movie directed by Louis Teague, who... has come up a lot on our show lately. And you know what? After watching Alligator now as an adult, which is a beautifully directed movie, I think he's a vastly underrated horror guy, like a guy that doesn't get mentioned often. He did, what were the Stephen King things?
He did Cujo. He did The Cat's Eye.
Yeah.
He edited, I think I told you this because it brought up with Monty Hellman, he edited Monty Hellman's Cockfighter at the same time because the story was Monty's a real animal activist type, or just he can't see animals hurt. Right. So he's directing a film called Cockfighter.
Wow.
And he couldn't do the close-ups, and they had to kind of hurry. And so Roger Corman hired Louis Teague to do the close-ups and edit anything with extra blood and gore, which is of animals, which was interesting. And Monty had only good things to say about him as an editor. I think he also did the sequel to Romancing the Stone, which was kind of his big... what is that one
called?
Jewel of the Nile, which didn't completely work, but it shows how he must have been seen at the time because that's a big sequel to have been handed.
Well,
with Megastar.
Here's what impresses me about him as a director, because you had talked about Cujo several episodes back when you saw it.
Just fantastic.
And at the time period that movie was made, to be able to shoot a dog and a kid and have it all be real, no CG, none of the nonsense, is really impressive. But at the same time, I kind of think the same of Alligator. I mean, this is, early 80s?
Well, and Alligator has something that Cujo doesn't have, and that's humor. and the writing, and that's all John Sayles.
Yeah, amazing.
But I honestly think that the writing of the Robert Forster character, and that's like one of my favorite written. Like just the little jokes about his hairline and stuff.
And that was
so
him.
smart. Oh, I believe it. I totally believe it.
Yeah, because Robert Forster is the lead of the movie, and there's an interview on the DVD with John Sayles, which I watched, and he was saying, he's kind of brought in, did a complete rewrite on it, and told a pretty straightforward story. I mean, I'm sure you remember the movie. It's this little girl has a little tiny alligator. Her dad flushes it down the toilet. And the thing I didn't remember, I knew there was a reason, but now as an adult, so there's a company that I guess they're doing all sorts of weird drug tests on animals. And the guy that is bringing them in is this sleazeball that just finds animals off the street. He's just dumping them into the sewers. That's the way he's getting rid of them. And of course, this little alligator has been feeding on it all these years and has grown into a 40-footer. And eventually, they discover it, and it kind of pops up into the neighborhood.
Yeah,
and
Ghoulie style.
The actual creature itself looks awesome, and there's a lot of humor.
Amazing birthday party sequence.
Oh my god, yeah,
it's one of the best scenes ever.
Towards the end, and that's when he kind of, I miss the writing of these type of films because every character and every beat, kind of makes sense. There's a scientist, I don't know exactly what her terminology is, but she studies reptiles that ends up helping Robert Forster. Her name is Robin Riker. Super gorgeous girl. She ends up hooking up with Forster. And she's just one throwaway line about how her dad flushed her alligator down the toilet when she was a kid. So she's the girl from the beginning of the movie. Yeah. And I know most people in today's modern, day movies would just roll their eyes oh, why'd they have to make it be her? I fucking love that. She doesn't know it's her alligator. She has no idea. It's just this one little throwaway line that kind of wraps up the whole opening.
And that was a real thing, right? Where there was some craze people at one point and then everyone flushed them at some point.
Yeah, totally.
So it kind of was an urban legend, I guess.
Yeah. And the thing with Forster that John Sayles says in the interview is that he had just had hair plugs. And I mean, this is something I was unaware of as a kid and was self-conscious about it and just thought it'd be so obvious. So he's like, what? I'd like my character to kind of make fun of it or make notes or,
that's cool.
Have people say something about it.
Yeah. He's such a class actor.
Which is weird because they do it 3 or 4 times.
I just find it hilarious. It's his character.
But I really love it. And the moment I was talking about is, it's before that big party scene. There's a kid's birthday party late at night, and the alligator is hiding in the pool. It's dark.
Oh yeah.
And these 3 little kids, they've got to be 10 or whatever. They're playing pirates, and they walk one kid up to the plank and make him jump into the pool. But before he jumps, the blindfold comes off, and he sees the alligator in the pool. It opens its mouth. Little kid falls in, and blood everywhere. And you're just oh my God, did they just totally kill a 10-year-old kid?
That's pretty wild.
And I mean, I remember as a kid that scarred me, and even now as an adult, it's pretty messed up.
It's funny, I didn't even remember. Yeah, it's funny the parts you don't remember. It hasn't been that long for me, but it's a really good film.
I suggest it. I think it may be out of print now, at least the DVD, but Lionsgate put it out.
That is the exact kind of film that I look for a Scream Factory to put out.
Oh yeah. And here's hoping, because I heard the rights that Lionsgate's rights expired for it. So hopefully somebody else out there will pick it up and re-put it out again. Also, I'd love to see Alligator 2, The Mutation, which I've never seen before.
I don't think I've seen it.
I think it's a direct-to-video sequel.
I'd also like to see Sayles write another horror film.
Yeah.
I know he's done polishes on some of the big stuff like The Mummy
Yeah.
But he's just one of those guys that between that, Piranha, and Howling, they're so smart. And the characters are always better written than they should be.
Yeah, totally.
You're always watching and you go, oh, wow, that feels like a real character,
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
All right, so you give me one.
I watched Secret 16. We watched a trailer a long time ago, when I think it might be the first time we ever did a Secret 16. And I've wanted to see this film more than any film pretty much ever, which is The Dark. And it had that guy, and he's shooting laser beams out of his eyes and killing. And it's one of these trailers where you're like, holy shit, that's the best trailer I've ever seen. Where's that movie? And so I didn't put up much effort to look for it, even though I wanted to see it. But recently, a good friend of ours in the show, Dick Gruner, found that and another film that I'll talk about in a second on a 3-pack. And as soon as I heard he had it, I borrowed it. It's from '79. It ended up being directed by John Bud Cardos, who some of you will know from his masterpiece Kingdom of Spiders with Shatner, which is a great film.
Yeah.
What actually happened though is it was a Tobe Hooper film, and Tobe Hooper was kicked off it about 3 days into shooting, maybe 4.
Wow.
For what they say taking too long. I don't know if that just means he was high as fuck.
Yeah.
But because this is 79, so we're talking not far after Chainsaw,
Yeah.
Anyway, so Tobe Hooper's kicked off. They brought on Cardos, who had done a couple things. I think he had worked with the producer before. It has Bill Devane, who's one of my favorite actors ever, Rolling Thunder. Of course. Casey Kasem, who just passed away.
Oh, man.
Kind of amazing timing that this came in, and he has a really fun cameo halfway through. For a movie with a trailer that's that good, the film to me really sucked.
Oh,
I know. It's very dull. It's very plotting, and it becomes this like police procedural where you just are like, where's the stuff I saw in the trailer with the alien and us? So there's a story behind it. I guess, because I had to kind of I started reading going like, this movie there's something wrong with what this movie is. And not so much with what the directors have done. And basically it was shot as a zombie film. And basically Dick Clark is a co-producer. Mm-hmm. And so he's trying to probably make a quick buck in the genre. He really thought, after it kind of tested poorly, that it should be a sci-fi film. So he made the thing that was a zombie suddenly shoot laser beams from its eyes. That's something they went back and did.
Wow.
And so suddenly the cool parts, which are those parts, I got to admit, don't make a lick of sense with the rest of it, which is actually kind of dull. And it's kind of just like almost like a homeless guy just shuffling around New York, and then you suddenly a blonde girl walking down the street and he's being killed. That was largely reshoots, by Cardos. The character's called the Mangler, which is very interesting given that it's also a Tobe Hooper film. They just call him the Mangler, who's walking around the streets. So it's got, I'd say the last 10 minutes is still pretty much worth watching. A lot of people would like this movie because it's a bit of an antique from that period. Time capsule thing. There's some the cop stuff is fun, but for me, I was just like kind of bummed because it did not feel like it felt schizophrenic in what it was trying to do.
Right. Got to find that trailer.
Which makes sense. The trailer's great, and then everyone should watch the trailer. And there's still moments of that, but it's just like to think of going back into something and trying to completely change it. I think it really showed. But it's a fun movie. And I'll tell you the other one on the pack that I'll talk to you about after, I loved. So that's the cliffhanger. Oh. Back to you, Rob.
Well, following up on the alligator kind of motif, I just got a copy of Lake Placid, which Scream Factory will be putting out, I believe, on July.
Tell me you didn't watch Rogue as well.
This is just too much. No, I didn't. I own
Alligator
Rogue,
Overkill. Okay,
and I have seen it, but not in a while. No, I checked out Lake Placid, the Blu-ray. Looks fantastic. Directed by Steve Miner. Written by David E. Kelly.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, Ally McBeal and everything.
Yeah, which is an interesting thing. And there's some new interviews, special features about that, about how this guy from a non-genre world kind of decided to write this sort of hip, sort of horror comedy.
I remember it being funny. That's all I remember. Yeah, I don't remember loving it, but I remember it being funny.
I don't remember the movie at all. I may have only seen bits of it because I think this is late 90s. I think it was 99. Yeah. It's a lot of fun. It's really good. I mean, it's not Alligator, which is a straightforward actual, they tried to take the Jaws kind of template for Alligator. Whereas this is just a lot more fun. And, Bill Pullman's the lead.
Who I'll watch in almost anything.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like he's one of those actors I just like across the board love.
Him, Bridget Fonda, looking her absolute best. Yeah. And Oliver Plath, who always steals the show.
Yeah,
he's always good. And he's really, really funny in this. He's like this weird eccentric guy that's like a crocodile hunter or whatever.
Do you know about like why Scream Factory wanted that one? Was that one of their personal loves or a title that just kind of
I don't know. I think so. I know they mentioned it briefly, but I feel like it is one of those, because the 90s is a really weird gray area for the horror genre in general. And I think that's one of those like kind of under the radar cult
We've still got to do our 90s show.
I know. I'd love to do a 90s show.
Especially with things like that popping up.
Yeah. But you know what? I dig the movie. It's really funny. It's really interesting. Betty White's in it, and she freaking steals the show. She's hilarious. So it's definitely worth seeing. It's one of the better things that Steve Miner did. There's a lot of scope to it. I believe they shot on location, so there's all these beautiful scenic shots of the lake and everything. The only downside, and this is kind of a problem of a lot of films of this sort, especially towards the late 90s, is there's a few CG shots, and this is like before sci-fi movies happen, so it's kind of like a precursor to that. And some of the CG shots are awful.
So isn't it weird that you talk about that and CG's meant to make it better, but then you talk about Alligator and there's not really shots where you go back and go, oh, that looks so artificial.
No, I don't even know how he did. Watching Alligator, forced perspective. I'm trying to think
I'd love
of how
to see a documentary on that
got
one.
a giant alligator to walk down the street next to cars that look tiny.
Yeah, we'll do our best to get Lewis on here. I mean, I know he lives in the area still, but
he'd be amazing.
He's certainly older.
But and that's the downside is like, because there's a lot of great practical stuff in Lake Placid. You see the crocodile looks great. There's a few shots here that are CG, and it's the early days of CG, so it's way noticeable, especially on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
But overall, fun movie. Okay. I recommend it. And what did you love?
Okay, so this I was really excited about this one. This is the one I thought I would like less, because The Dark had everything I would have thought I wanted in a horror film that I had never seen. This one, we've talked about Blood Diner a lot on the show early on. If you go back to the early episodes, me and Becca were trying to do a piece on it at one point. And Jackie Kong, who we were unsuccessful, and she's kooky. I'd never seen this film, The Being. Now, The Being, I thought, would be the kind of monster movie that, when people tell me things camp and stuff or silly or anything like that, I guess for me it's a bit of a turnoff. Doesn't mean I won't like it. Sometimes I will. There's something about the charm of this film that I'll take this over Blood Diner any day. I think which I like Blood Diner too. This film's awesome. Really? This film had everything I wanted from like a monster movie. It's basically toxic waste is being dumped in Idaho. A young boy's out on his bike, spills over, and basically you think he's dead or whatever. And then basically this creature, he's mutated into a creature. And then it's totally silly and funny and weird and dark. Martin Landau's in it.
Wow.
And this is like in 1983. I actually read up that it was originally called Easter Sunday, and it just sat on the shelves for 3 years. And then somebody retitled it The Being, and it got a theatrical. For one, I know as part of when Cinefamily was doing the regional horror, and that's one of the things just absolutely going for it. It's set in Idaho, and you just feel the small town. So some of the cast feel like they must have been from there, and they have a drive-in movie scene, which I love any horror movie that has a scene at a drive-in. It's nostalgia for something I never got.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so there's that weird nostalgia that I didn't grow up at drive-ins, and I never even went to, and yet I want that yearning for one. And it's
never
hilarious.
Been to a drive-in.
Oh, you have to go out here. It's still fun. But I didn't go, during the time where you're going to make out and, with somebody. And there's some kills in this it's just really funny. And I think the timing's great. And I don't think Jackie Kong is a joke director. I think some people want to say, oh, she's so bad, she's good kind of director. I think there has to, after seeing The Being and Blood Diner, she has to be a genuinely strong comedic director, in my opinion. I don't think and there's some bad direction here and there, and there's some crazy effects that you're like, oh my God, what's going on? But I also can't accept now that she's like a bad director, because this was just too fun. The gore effects are amazing, and they're just fun and weird. I would love to see this get... I mean, this is like, look, and I'm probably overhyping it. If you follow my things like Under the Skin and movies like that, this isn't the one. This is the other side of Elric, the side of Elric that loves the stuff, and loves movies that are, but there's something about it that I felt like the humor of this is like better than like 90% of films from that period that just were maybe too self-conscious.
Right. And she's an interesting character.
Yeah, I've never met her. I just know she was very difficult to pin down when we're trying to interview.
Our guest next week will be able to give us a little insight.
She's her voice piece. So I'll end with this. Kong is king.
Wow. Boom.
It took me a week.
Let's start that hashtag.
Yeah, Kong is king. But trust me, if you can find The Being, and it's on a 3-pack, so it's with the film I just talked about.
If you tell her that tagline, she may come on our show.
She might come on the show.
We're going to have Heidi.
She was apparently working on a new movie, so I know she made a comedy back then too, which I haven't seen. I'm going to look it up now. I'm telling you, The Being is good fun. And thank you, Dick Grinner, for letting me borrow your 3-pack. The third film on that pack, no one's going to ever watch, because he didn't and I didn't.
All righty. Last movie for me. I checked out Death Valley, which is another early Screen Factory release.
I haven't seen it.
I didn't know anything about it, and it was one of every once in a while you hear one of these titles that just completely slips you. You just, for some reason, you're like, I don't remember that one. And sure enough, I don't remember. It's from 1982, directed by a guy named Dick Richards, written by Richard Rothstein, who wrote the original Universal Soldier. The Van Damme movie.
Lend me your ears.
Yeah, and it's kind of it's almost like a road picture slash. It's a decent slasher. A slasher with kind of the road picture sort of
in the desert.
It's in the desert because the lead kid is Peter Billingsley, who you'd remember as Ralphie from A Christmas Story, little kid, and it's about the same time, so it's the same age. Huh. And his mom is played by Catherine Hicks in it, who from Child's Play, and his parents are divorced, so her and her son and her new boyfriend are kind of on this road trip, and they're kind of at one point going through Death Valley. And they stumble upon what do they call, like a Winnebago, like a a trailer park sort of thing, where we, the audience, have seen a number of murders just take place in, old school chef knife, and the kid kind of stumbles upon a little clue from the thing. So there's a sheriff involved that's trying to figure out is this connected to some of the other murders that have happened recently in the area, and then the killer who. There's a little mystery behind it, but they kind of tell you up front who it is, who's now after the kid, because it's the one person that could kind of identify. Is the tone straight horror, or is it comedy? It's pretty straight. I didn't know. There's not really humor in it at all. No, it's pretty straightforward. And it's interesting. I didn't think it was great. I didn't think it was bad. It felt like one of those long lost nuggets that you're like, oh, wow, that's interesting. I never saw that one. And sometimes they're lost for a reason, and not because they're bad, but just because they're not either way. And I think to get passionate about a film, it almost has to go one way or the other. Yeah, that's what I'll say for it. There's nothing particular that stands out. The killer's pretty ordinary, and the kills are pretty straightforward. Had you heard of that? I'd never heard of it. I hadn't even heard of it until Scream put it out. Weird. Yeah, that's so it's just one of those. But yeah, that's all I saw this week. I had a couple throwaways that I'll say. The Witches, which I don't know if I'd ever seen, but I'm a huge, obviously, Nick Rogue film. Fan, and it's the Roald Dahl adaptation of the classic book, Angelica Houston, and I watched it with my 3-year-old, and he is into witches right now. I'm like, all right, well, hopefully it's not too scary, so kind of just start watching it. It's definitely a kid's film. It's definitely like a family film. It's pretty cool. It looks a little dated now, but it's actually really fun. Angelica Houston's great. And when they rip off their faces and skin, it's pretty batshit. The special effects makeup is fun. Sorry. So I think I'm kind of only bringing it up for anyone who, if they have young kids, it's actually kind of it seems like a good gateway horror film, because he's really into that scene. And what didn't scare him, which surprised me. And then quickly, because it pertains to what we're going into, I'm going to talk about this now because I don't want to talk about what the guests. I saw Sleepaway Camp 2. Borrowed from you. And why don't you want to talk about it in front of our guests? Well, we can do that too. Could. But she wasn't in it. So that's your clue to the guest. Oh. That's all I'm going to say. I'll say this, because I felt probably similar about this to what I'd say, but no, what's the one we saw? And you were completely unaware of the sequels, right? Yeah, I didn't really know about the sequels. And to be perfectly honest, even the first one, I only saw it about 2 or 3 years ago, and I can't always blame it on New Zealand, but whatever video store I went to, that was not like something I was aware of, really. Sleepaway Camp was not a franchise I was that aware of. But number 2, I think, is like Death Spa, in that I feel like it's a really fun party movie. Oh, yeah. But I'll say this about it, because I know you really liked it. I liked it, but I think what gets in the way is seeing it too late in life. Because I think it's clearly, literally one of the first self-referential to the genre horror films. Yeah. And it's all comedy. The box art is Angela carrying the Freddy girl. And then Freddy's in it, and she dresses as Freddy and kills someone. And she's so treated as a comic character, like she just comes in and kind of makes a joke and then kills someone. You're like, oh, weird. And so for me, I think if I'd seen that when I was probably like 17, 16, I think it would have blown me away, because of just, I hadn't probably seen something like that. But in the post-Scream and everything, where everything's referential for me now, it's hard to get excited about it because of that. But I could definitely see its charm. And, so I was surprised how early, because that's like 88. Yeah. That's pretty early to just already, and especially given the tone of the first one. Yeah. Is an actual horror. Yeah. The tone of the first one's more my bag. Yeah. You know what I mean? But, it was interesting. So I think for me, it was mostly a problem of coming to it too late. And I thought the Springsteen actress who was in it was good. She was fun, Yeah. But it is a little weird when you don't see the boss's sister. I had to look that up, because I was like, really? Is that? Yeah. So, I thought it was interesting. I liked it, and I think it's definitely, I think if I saw it with a lot of people, it would have been more satisfying. And it was pretty late at night last night. But I could definitely, there are those movies where it's when you see them, and they're meant for a certain period, especially. Yeah. The irony being that it was a direct-to-video title, and nobody did really get to see it in a group. Yeah, that's true. That's true, so. Yeah. And the only other thing I'm going to throw out, because we're about to check, I have to talk to you about this, because this news broke yesterday, and I'm like, you're the only other nerd who's going to be as excited. Oh? Black & Decker, baby. Black & Decker. Whoa. The fact that Predator's being rebooted. No, not rebooted. Shane Black went on record today to say... Okay, good. He made some kind of quote like, why would I already throw away the rich mythology we've set up? He's that's good. I was worried about that. Sequel, not reboot. But what I love is that it's Shane Black, who was
in it.
In the first one.
The first
yes.
one, which is probably some people won't even know unless they're on Twitter.
It's amazing, yeah.
And Fred Dekker, who's someone we constantly want to see make more work.
Yes.
Like he's just, out of all the people out there, it's like his voice is so...
What a surprise to see his name.
It was, and to think it's going to be, and I heard it was set on Christmas.
I really get
I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. Today I heard somebody say that they wanted it to be called like Black Christmas
but by
Predator.
the way, everybody that's complaining about the whole, look, it's in good hands, but anybody complaining about it being a reboot or whatever the hell it's going to be sequel, honestly, I thought Predators was a reboot.
Yeah, it's kind of a reimagining.
Predators is the same
Predators was fun.
Freaking movie as the original, except there's 3 of them instead of 1.
It was the most fun one they've done recently to me.
Yeah, I have faith in.
But I will tell you this: I don't know if that's a thing here, but in New Zealand and Australia, Black & Decker is like one of the most famous tool brands.
Yeah.
Oh, that's okay. So when I saw Black & Decker, I was like, what? Like, anyway, that's really cool. And also, if you live in LA this weekend, Secret 16, Scream Factory present a giant rat movie or a killer rat movie.
I can't wait.
I can't tell you no more.
All right. So let's go get more beer.
We're very excited about beer and our next guest.
Okay, so we are back, and Elric's already holding up the movies, and our special guest is here. Somebody I've been wanting to have on the show for quite a while now. And I was trying to think when would be the good time, like summer for to kind of do the summer camp theme or whatever it is. But thankfully, Sleepaway Camp has been re-released on Blu-ray DVD
Indeed.
From our friends at Scream Factory. So I'm here to welcome my good friend, Felissa Rose.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, Angela.
Thank you. Yay!
And she is also drinking a beer. That's how awesome she is.
Yes. Are you kidding? Cheers.
She's dressed better than me and Rob. Cheers.
And I have a lot less on.
That outfit would not look good on us at all.
Should we all try it on?
I think we'll pass around.
We're going to now play
2 more beers. That's what I need to wear lingerie.
Oh boy! All right, so we have where do we want to start? Because I have a few ideas of where we could start, and then we have some questions from fans from the Facebook page and Twitter. There were some good ones in there. So
I like starting before you're an actor, before you're in the role. I'm just curious if you were exposed to horror before you did that role, because some people come a lot later or become fans later after they're in the genre. You know what I mean? Which is totally natural. I know, like Jeff Combs always says he wasn't into horror at all. And kind of get sucked into it.
So when I was in the womb, I was, that's actually the way it happened for me. Because I was 12 turning 13 when I auditioned and then got the part and filmed the movie. So I wasn't quite, horror immersed, let's say. But then once I did the film, I was intrigued. And that's when I watched all of the crazy slashers of the late 70s, early 80s.
Right.
That, to me, that era is just completely amazing.
Yeah. I mean, you're only a few years older than us, which is why we kind of came up on that same time. Actually, Felissa's way younger than me.
She looks younger.
Just so you know. I'm older than Felissa.
I just parked my walker in the back of Geek Nation.
But no, I mean, we all came up in that era where, I mean, there was just so many, especially coming on home video and stuff.
And genuinely scary stuff, not just trying to be scary. I think, we talk about it on the show a lot, that a lot of those films were made by non-horror directors. People who just made one horror film and it's like, whoa. Yeah. Because they had something to say. They were kind of pushed to say it.
And then you have The Last House on the Left, where that just fucking rocked my world.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I was watching a documentary that just kind of fucked my head up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so much. It's like when you watch a movie and everybody's going to hate me for this, I think. I hope not, but it's just my opinion. Like Nightmare on Elm Street, to me, I'm watching an amazing film. But when I saw something like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and we were just speaking earlier, and Last House on the Left, I felt like I was watching something that actually happened. And that's probably due to how raw it looked, great, the grainy kind of.
Blair Witch, I think, tapped into that. They probably had that same feeling when they're trying to decide how to make their movie. I think they went, well, these films feel like you're in it.
Yeah, does feel like documentaries, But we love Nightmare as well.
Well, yeah, and Nightmare is more about the imagination and dreams.
And beautiful. There's a beauty to it for me. I watched that and it's
it's cool that Wes made both, Last House and that. It's a great trajectory. Would you,
high five.
Which brings up the question everyone wants to know, would you date a guy like Krug? Everyone, including me, wanted to know
that. We should have
Crew
like
shots?
I made out with David Hess.
What?
Yeah.
No.
Which movie was that?
Holy shit.
Oh, wait, was it a movie?
That's like pretty much
In
the hottest thing
real
ever
life.
uttered on the show.
Oh my god!
Did you put your hands through that curly hair?
Massive
Oh, I love his hair.
black curly hair.
I've heard in real life
miss
he's like
him.
the nicest guy ever.
No,
and
he's not.
He's not?
I mean,
Okay.
God rest his soul.
Okay.
He was a dear friend of mine, but he was the most spectacular, beautiful personality because he was cuckoo crazy.
Yeah.
I mean,
I heard
I am
that too, but yeah.
And that's why I loved him. You could have a great debate with him, anything from politics to, horror movies,
That's
and
awesome.
we'd fight and then love each other, and it was all good.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go back to the loving each other part and the sleeping over. Let's go back to the curly hair. That sounds fun.
that weird?
You're right. This is the best guest ever. Keep drinking.
It was like a million years ago, before my husband and all that shit. It's like we were in Modesto at the Modesto Film Festival. They showed Sleepaway Camp. Oh no, horror! A movie I did horror at midnight, and he came to watch it.
That's cool.
So I had to make out with him because he was the only person who showed up.
Wow, there you
He's
go.
committed. I think he knew why he was going. He had something in mind when he showed up.
Show up to midnight screenings of really weird movies, and you might have a shot.
How cool! I just want to know how cool your parents are, because I'm just thinking, like, were they pretty liberal to even like read the script and go, "Hey, you should audition for this"? Because I have a 3-year-old, and I felt weird about him being in a commercial, and like the idea, like, oh yeah, you're a everyday killer. Here you go,
My mom is interviewed on the Blu-ray in the new behind the scenes documentary, and yeah, I think my parents were just really, really open and cool. And I had said that my dad had just opened the first resort in New York, the first gay resort.
Oh, cool.
So that I came from, I was 7, and it was like all over the news. And they told me, this is, great. It was like,
wow.
So yeah, there was in my family, no judgment, no holding back to like, don't let a child, fear or worry, or let them understand because they're people.
Yeah,
and
smart.
you communicate with them like parents should with horror movies.
When you're not beating them, yeah.
When you're not beating the living shit. Well, actually, while I'm
Why am I
beating
beating
them,
you?
I tell them.
Yeah, right.
You have one child?
No, I just had I have a 3-month-old now. Second, yeah.
Congrats.
2 boys, and I don't beat them yet.
Boy, yeah. No, I have 3, and they're my best friends.
Boys, girls,
I have
mix?
2 girls and a boy.
God, I remember when you had your first daughter.
Yeah, why didn't
You
you
were
get? Let's
at
start
my
with that.
house.
I want to start with that because I don't know the story. Just talk about how you know each other, because people want to know the story.
All right, well, you're going a little out of order.
we're
Okay, sorry.
brothers.
Okay,
But
Rob's
it's
leading
totally-
this one, and now I've derailed him.
As usual,
I always
Elric
derail him a
always
little bit.
derails everything.
Yeah.
No,
Keep
I was
it
going to
fun.
go backwards, but you know what? That is a good idea. Because it leads into. All right, well, let me start with this. I do want to go backwards a little bit because I think I haven't had a chance to talk about the Blu-ray yet because it came out a few weeks ago, and I knew that we were going to have Felissa on. But every couple of years when this movie gets put back in the spotlight, I'm always kind of surprised by it. And I mean, this Blu-ray looks spectacular. They went back and did a whole 2K scan of it. It's the best the movie's ever looked on any kind of setup. And, Felissa mentioned the documentary. There's a new doc on there with plenty of new interviews. The coolest thing on there is that your mom is on there. I didn't expect that. And you think at first, you're like, oh, wait, they talked to her mom? Why is that going to be interesting? And she's like the most interesting person in there because she's kind of talking about bringing her 12-year-old into this movie.
Were they on set at all?
She was kind of
My mom
because
was
she's
on
a parent,
set,
yeah.
she became like the den mother to all the kids on
cool.
it, and she tells
that's
those
fun.
stories. So, this new release of it is definitely worth it. It's the best it's ever looked. I thought I knew everything about these movies at this point, and that little doc kind of.
I have to ask you, what was new? What did you find out that you were surprised
Oh, well,
by?
you and Jonathan, you and Ricky, kind of having a little on set
We're
romance.
still like fighting and loving. I think, I just want to make out with the world, so that's always like an issue.
was
But
amazing.
And we'll be
though.
right back after a very long commercial break. Very long. Actually, not that long. Probably like 2 to 3 minute break.
No, but actually, I'll give away that little tidbit because there's plenty of stories. But the funniest is so she's 12 and he was like a year or 2 older or whatever.
he was
Or maybe
17.
17. Oh, he was 17.
I was 13. He was 17.
So, yeah,
Nice.
so he's a little older. They start shooting this movie for whatever it is, like a couple weeks, and they're kind of like,
We were making out.
Yeah, you're like, I don't even
Can
know.
they arrest him now? Can they go back and retroactively put him in jail?
Well, he was underage too.
Okay.
This is the joy of a romantic experience as a teen or a young kid is because then all of a sudden a bunch of extras came from the city for a shot, and then Felissa was over because there was another girl that was 17
there was a
that showed up.
19-year-old hot, Latina. Her name was Heidi.
I remember. Wow.
I remember her
She's
coming
listening.
to say,
Heidi, did you hear that?
Heidi, go fuck yourself. I still have the curling iron, Heidi. Come meet me in the back of the camp. And he was just all about her because I could only make out with him. I couldn't do anything else.
Yeah.
Well, I could.
A good admission, but a good admission. Your mom was standing right there. She's standing over you, making out. Now, was your mom there when David Hesh was going? That I want to see.
Wow.
That was a menage.
Okay, that's a all right. Wow, she's really involved.
Real progressive.
Yeah, that's a progressive parent.
Oh man, so okay, all right. So getting back on track here. All right,
Where's the beer?
Yeah, we're gonna go for refills soon.
So the Blu-ray came out, and it's interesting to get all these stories. But to me, the first sign of all this, and this will kind of explain our history and how we met and stuff like that. But every year I'd go to the Fangoria Weekend of Horrors convention in New York City, and I never had an issue getting in. You just show up, buy tickets at the door, or whatever. And the one year I couldn't get in was they had put together the first ever Sleepaway Camp reunion, where they got you and Robert and pretty much the whole cast. Yeah, this is going back to 2001. And I remember being so disappointed. I take the train out and they wouldn't let us in because they're like, we're beyond capacity, and that's like never happened.
Why was that? Was it because of their
Sleepaway Camp was a big part of it? Yeah,
my big boobs showed up, and they were like, "Whoa, Angela!"
But
was that really?
I mean, from your perspective, that was the first time that you really saw firsthand the popularity of this movie, right? Because you'd forgotten about it at this point, and maybe done a few little interviews online, but showing up in New York City, seeing everybody again, and having a giant crowd. That was the first sign, right? That this was...
We were blown away. It was incredible. Apparently, Friday the 13th was right before us. I mean, but Friday was the biggest movie ever. This was a little movie that had never been out, so to speak. And all of a sudden, people were like, standing room only to meet the cast because we had never been together before. And it was so fun and crazy. And Robert was there, and 10 of us, I think, showed up. And it was just the best time ever. And that was the first time we went, oh my God, people know about Sleepaway Camp.
Right.
And we're talking how many years now? I mean, it was 17 years later, I think.
At that point, yeah. And I mean, that's the thing. Timing is everything. Because if you go back to 2001, before there was a ton of activity on the internet and, social media so you could find you, you just forgot about what happened to all these people in this movie. And I love this movie too. So just having this little reunion at this one show all of a sudden kind of, all of a sudden showed that, wow, this is a totally viable, popular franchise.
You never made it in.
Never made it in.
Man.
But here's what happened.
Crazy.
I want to say not too long after that, there was another convention in Chicago. It could have been the very first Flashback weekend, if I'm not mistaken.
It was the first. Do I remember?
This is where
That's our
Felissa.
big. You Google my name and it's me and you from Flashback weekend.
I had been in touch. I'd been in touch with Jeff Hayes, who ran the and still runs the Sleepaway Camp website at the time. And
we love you, Jeff.
And we love you, Jeff. And Jeff was one of the first people I interviewed for Icons. And he was doing a contest to give tickets away to Flashback Weekend for another. I think they were screening Sleepaway Camp, and it was you and Robert. It wasn't a full-on reunion, but a few of you guys were there. And I think he just felt bad for me. I may have bitched about the New York thing, like, oh man, I went and I couldn't get in. So he, I was one of the winners, and I got to fly out to Chicago for this convention. But Jeff was super cool and introduced me to Felissa because she was at a table the whole weekend.
And we immediately felt like, brother and sister. We're from the same area and, two paisans over here.
and we don't, you don't see me like a brother-sister thing, right?
Hey.
Because I'm glad that you feel that way about each other.
Commercial break again.
Unbelievable.
Actually, I just ran out of beer, so we're going to have some dangers in here. Parker!
You hold off on your beer, Dan.
Okay, I'll wait a minute.
So that was the first
Please
time
don't.
that we met. But how soon after, because it's fuzzy for me, but you were not acting at the period that the reunion happened in New York City.
No.
So what were you doing? Because that was definitely...
Nothing.
Just hanging out.
You're in stasis.
You want the truth?
Yeah, sure.
Are you talking about from like 83 on or in general?
Well, I mean, yeah, because did you act much
Well,
after
from
the original
83, I
movie?
went back to 8th grade.
Right.
What were you thinking? Jeez, you know, it's actors like you who
Crazy
are just
me.
really piss off us
I'm a
horror
nut.
fans. Trying to get educated.
That's the whole thing. I
How
went
did
back.
8th grade go? Let's go through each grade of your life.
8th grade sucked. Like the girls wanted to beat the shit out of me, but thankfully I had like the tough girls the tough Italian chicks were like, you go near her and we're gonna kick your ass.
Is that before or after the film?
After the film.
Because I did read that, and which was an obvious question to ask you, but I already read that you watched it for the first time with 8th graders. I need to hear about that.
Yeah.
Because
And I was in Catholic school. I was
Holy
going to
smokes.
Our Lady of Mercy.
How did that happen?
I'm still friends. Hi, all my friends.
So the
Monique
first time you're seeing that movie is with 8th graders.
Yes. It was like, what
That's
the
incredible.
fuck?
Yeah, I mean, that's about as crazy as it could get for
There's a lot of vile
That was the first
language.
penis I had ever seen.
And it was your own.
And it was mine. I saw my
This
own
might be
penis.
the greatest line when you think about it.
Yeah.
Justin
first
Beam
thing-
likes that
Yeah.
line.
That's good.
Yeah, it was amazing.
And for the record, Justin still hasn't seen one. Penis.
My
We like
penis?
Justin. He's been on the show, but we're allowed to make fun of him.
We love you, Justin. Yeah, that was amazing. Like to see with your class, and the film was just. I was so shocked. To see yourself on the screen is weird enough, and then to see
Were there
the horror.
nuns? Is it a nun kind of school, or what's going on here?
The nuns were behind me. No, I'm kidding.
That's just so-
None of the teachers went. None of the nuns
okay, so
went.
it's just like your
the
friends.
kids.
Okay.
So the kids went. They loved it. It was a hoot. Everybody enjoyed it. And then I forgot about it.
Yeah.
I went back to school. I continued. They talked about 2 and 3. I met with Michael Simpson. He and we connected. I mean, we just spoke on Facebook the other day. And he had Pamela Springsteen in mind. I wanted to go. I had just gotten into NYU Tisch School of the Arts.
Fancy.
Yeah.
Nice.
I wanted to study. I had gotten an early decision, and they didn't. They were like,
What were you
like
studying?
me? Do you like me more in it?
Yeah, I think education is good.
Elric, hold on, let me stop for a second. Elric is staring at Felissa with love in his eyes the entire time.
And beer.
He's like
So
rubbing his
easier.
nipple like,
Dear God.
did you like him?
I'm
this
trying to
morning?
think, should I think something
How is that
intelligent or more come on? What will work better at this point? Actually, I'm going to play aloof from that. What would you say? Yeah, whatever. It's
You
cool.
gotta remind you,
I don't
Felissa,
care.
that he's got horses on his shirt.
I do
so
have horses.
That should
I
be
like
a deterrent.
it.
Oh,
I
you
like
like
it.
that?
And
She
the
likes to
accent.
ride.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And the necklace is cool
Yeah,
too.
that's from New Zealand.
I'm into it.
Oh, the accent you didn't realize? Oh. Okay. Anyway, we're going to give Rob an aneurysm if we're not careful.
Yes.
So what were you doing in New York with Tisch School of Arts? Were you studying acting or something?
I was in the Lee Strasberg Conservatory, as well as I was studying in the business school too. I figured, show business.
Yeah.
So I graduated and I did some theater in New York for many years. And then, boom, 2001 hit. And it was like, okay, you're in horror movies now. And that was the greatest thing that ever happened to me.
In the period though before, because I know now it's become very fashionable for people casting indie horror films to go and find people who are in other horror.
Sure.
The self-referential casting has become, a big part of casting.
Yeah.
But like in that period between say 83 and like 93, and when you're in college, was anyone contacting you because they'd been big sleepers?
Not a soul.
So that tells you a big difference about like where the internet came in.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Because it was so different. Probably because people, even if they wanted to, probably couldn't find you.
No, they couldn't. I was in school with Adam Sandler. We did a little
interesting.
show for MTV called the Party Phone Series. That was so
cool.
fun. And, I had some great friends there who were doing incredible things, but it was just like, and I was drinking beer even back then. So it wasn't on my radar. Like, I'm the type of girl who lives in the moment. Whatever's happening, I ride with it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, sounds good.
I go with that reference.
I like that.
I don't think too much about, what's going next. I
Yeah.
didn't worry, like, where am I headed? And maybe I should. But I'm glad how it worked out. It went perfectly.
But now that's obviously totally different, right? Like now you must be getting, I think I looked up your last year and there's like 5 or 6 films in the last, except for
going
2014.
well.
That's fun.
Yeah, working with some incredible people. I mean, and I'm not a name drop type of girl,
Yeah.
but I mean, just to work with like Danielle Harris, was a dream. I mean, I have a huge crush on her, and she knows, you know, like she's a girlfriend of mine. No, I mean, like if I had a girl crush, it's Danielle.
Pretty cool.
Like,
She's been on the show too.
Yep. You're in love with everybody, Felissa.
And you're taller than her.
My gosh, I have the cutest picture where she's actually, I'm hugging her and she's on her tippy toes.
Oh, that's good. That's good. And you're both child actors, which perfectly. Rob's gonna lose it because it's. We call this the sleazy episode.
Bring in the love, baby.
She is a child. She was a child actor too, just like you.
I was gonna bring her up.
I just remember I brought her up once before she was on a show. You're like, oh, I like her. She's short.
She is like, honestly,
I met her and I was really surprised.
She's hot as all get out, but like just beautiful and smart and cool as shit. So I got to work on a new movie with her and Eric Roberts.
Eric Roberts.
No, who is a great actor. And it's like, he's that. I agree when Mickey Rourke, remember that Golden Globes, Mickey Rourke won, and he got up there and he's like, the best actor in this room is Eric Roberts. And everyone's just like groaning, all these like famous actors. It's like Eric Roberts, like the thing about acting and career is one shift to the left. And that guy is like Oscar podium every couple of years. Mm-hmm. It's just these like weird choices he could have been a really truly great actor.
It is so... because now I've done 2 films with him since in the past 2 years we've done 2 films, and it's bizarre how incredibly talented he is. Like it's a weird, I mean, it's just in his genes, obviously. Mm-hmm. And I am in such awe of him as a person as well. I love his wife, Eliza. He's a beautiful person and he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, yeah. Don't believe me? Watch Star 80 and then
Star 80 and then like, Sharktopus.
Yeah. I mean,
Pope of Greenwich Village, and he just,
Rourke's in that too. Yeah,
I think he steals The Dark Knight.
Yeah, he does. He's really good in The Dark Knight.
And Anthony Michael Hall too.
Yeah.
Another favorite of mine.
Yeah,
I have a good Anthony. If you give me beer, I get loose lipped.
It always bumps me out. Some of these
he's a buddy of mine too.
Wink, nudge, nudge.
That Dark Knight.
This is like our TMZ episode.
I like this.
Of the horror genre.
Well, was it going to ever be anything else? Like Becca's gone, so there's no PhD here to rein us in.
Right? Yeah. Oh man.
It's a free rein. Oh wait, hold on. She has to go to the bathroom right now, so we have to take a quick break.
All right. Somehow magically, all our beer mugs are full again.
Yes, that's beautiful.
What happened? Wow. We didn't break it all.
Yeah.
No. All right. Can I take the reins again? Can I try?
Yeah, you try to take them. I can't remember what we were. I remember a bunch of 8th graders looking at your penis, and let's go from there.
And the nuns.
All right, so we're to 9th grade now?
Yeah, 9th grade.
What's going on here?
Oh, no, we went to Tisch Schoolyard. We're good.
All right, this is where I want to pick up, which is kind of your decision to return to acting, because I remember going to the set of Return to Sleepaway Camp, which is fun. And little side note, I was there the day that you met your future husband.
Oh,
he showed up the day that I showed up.
Close
your
ears.
what?
What the
fuck just happened?
Oh, I'm sorry.
What just happened?
Did I just break your heart?
What just happened here?
Sorry.
Oh, cool. So now she's married, Rob. Before you got here, he was pimping you out so hard to me, and now I'm just like, he was like, oh, yo, I got the hookup so hard. He's a liar.
We're just pretending.
All right, we'll talk about this husband.
Yeah.
That's cool.
No, but I mean, was Return the first, after the reunion, that's when you started kind of being in the public eye again. Was Return to Sleepaway Camp kind of like the first acting thing that you got back into? Or
Return to Sleepaway Camp?
Yeah. I'm trying to remember.
I worked with Dante Tomaselli.
Horror.
I did horror, and I remember crying on the set because it was like, I felt back. Mm-hmm. Like, wow, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is fantastic. And thank you, Dante, for, giving me that opportunity. And then from there, Chris Watson with like Zombiegeddon and, and then Return to Sleepaway Camp. Yeah, that was pretty incredible, very surreal being back at camp. But now I could be a fucking wild lunatic. So it was like, oh, look at her. She's back at camp and an adult.
Right.
So I could make out with everybody.
Yeah.
And I did. And then Darren, my now husband, he had been emailing me for like 2 years prior. I'm in a band, CKY. Like kill me. I sound like
CKY is Can't Kill Yourself.
Can't Kill Yourself with like Bam Margera, like the Jackass people.
Yeah, and what was one of the demos or the records? One of them has Felissa's
Volume
face,
1.
a freeze frame from the last shot of Sleepaway
Before
Camp.
they were together.
Before they were together, yes.
Way before. Like
Right.
he said that when he was a little boy, like 10, because he's 7 years younger. I rock the cradle.
Hey, you.
Yeah,
Cougar Town.
baby. I beat Demi Moore.
Yeah.
I'm the original cougar. He wore that shirt on Jackass, the face. That's when I finally went, what the fuck? That's crazy to watch TV
Yeah, that's
and
cool.
see your face on like a real show. So, yeah, he was just a huge fan. And when he was young, he said, I'm going to marry Felissa Rose.
Wow.
So he's a stalker.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
a cougar and he's a stalker.
He read The
you
Secret,
go.
the book The Secret. At
he
10
was
years
like-
old, he's like, oh, if I wish it
If I
hard
wish
enough.
it will happen.
And then stalk her hard.
And then,
All of you guys are in love with Scream Queens. It's very simple. Just start a rock band,
Yeah.
be
There you go.
famous,
Yeah.
and then you got to
And wear a T-shirt on TV.
wear a T-shirt.
I think that's the thing that
that
sold
big
it.
show.
Yeah.
That sold me. Yeah, that was so that's our story. And it's because of Sleepaway Camp that I'm married with
crazy.
kids. I have a career because of Sleepaway Camp.
You didn't question the fact that you had a penis in that movie, and he was like, all
he was
about
like,
it.
show me your penis. Is it really that
He is a
small?
rocker after all,
That's true. That's true.
But no, I mean, I have a great memories. I was only up there for one night. I think, where was it? Upstate
And it was
New
so
York?
fun. It was Starlight, Pennsylvania.
Okay, Pennsylvania, yeah. So I drove up with my friend Chris, and we were like, they just threw us on as extras to be like camp counselors in the background or whatever.
And CKY were the
just showed
extras
up,
too.
we were all camp counselors. So that's why I remember it was like the 3 dudes from CKY showed up that night, and I don't know, it's kind of weird knowing that I met Darren before he was even met you officially. Like,
Yeah,
we were all getting
really
T-shirts
met.
on to be camp
crazy.
counselors or whatever, and we shot some scene where they're like making fun of some kid on the stage and all that. But it was pretty neat being able to be on set and to see you. You were having a blast and talking to all the kids and talking to all the adults, and
Yeah.
Getting into character.
I was.
Getting into character.
It was literally like the tagline for the whole cast and crew was, I'm having a party in my cabin. For me. That's every single day I was like, I'm having a party in my cabin. I'm not fun.
Did they
Come
pitch
on,
it
I'm a
as
quiet
a
wallflower.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I believe that. Was the idea for this to return a little closer to the tone of the first, like rather than the 2 and 3? Like,
it was-
because it seems like it's
to me,
seems
it's
like
just
it's more,
like the first.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what
it's the director of the original coming back to
Right.
do it.
And if
so-
we're gonna be in love, you have to see Return to Sleepaway Camp.
Okay.
So,
yeah,
Yeah, well, 3. I've never seen 3.
Already
I haven't
So
seen
there.
3, which
3 or
you're
4.
not in.
Right, I'm not in.
Yeah, and I don't feel like I need to see 3. I feel like I could miss. I mean, unless Pamela Springsteen's coming on the show to get crazy. I mean,
I don't know. Pamela doesn't really want to talk about Sleepaway Camp.
okay.
It's so weird.
And I'm dying to meet her.
Is she no longer an actress?
She's a photographer.
Okay.
She's been seen dancing with her brother, Bruce, on stage.
Nice.
But she doesn't really kind of embrace,
Right.
let's say. She's, not.
You know what you find? You find the people don't embrace it until they've gone to one of these things
And
where
then
they've
see it
seen that
firsthand?
it's not just like a joke. They see that people like love it.
Yeah,
That
like
it means something
genuinely.
to someone. And I think that's why a lot of people start to do these things more frequently because they're like, oh, okay, this actually means something to someone.
Right.
It's
Yeah. Or, you
you're
just
gonna,
have a lot of integrity in your life.
right. Or it's for that. We should ask you about the signature stuff because we never actually have anyone who does the signature type stuff. Do you do a lot of the convention signature type stuff?
Like, am I at the convention?
Yeah. You do.
Yeah. I'm at all of them.
Because we were just talking about how like the inflation of going from what was it like $20, which is like normal, but then some people are like 85.
It's a really weird thing because we discussed this last week a little bit. Those Fango shows, nobody charged for anything when I was a kid.
Right.
And then somewhere along the line, it became sort of a business where it's like, all right, maybe it's like $5 if you want to get something signed.
Sure.
And then gradually, convention agents got involved, and then it became a $20 thing. And I guess I understand the business side to things because in those early days of Fango, as I explained, that was all part of
promotions,
publicity and marketing a movie. So, for example, they wouldn't do, they'd sometimes try to do reunion shows like the things that you guys did, but whatever movie was coming out, that like I think the one that you guys were at, Hellboy was coming out. So, of course, Ron Perlman and Del Toro and all of them were there. And they're signing posters of Hellboy for free because they are promoting that movie. You know, that's the way all the Fango shows used to be. But now it's more of a business where if you want to meet people from these movies, it's going to cost something. And the debate is always, you know, how much is too much? Because some people, you know, crank the prices up. The debate we had last week, which we still stand by, you know, Robert Englund is going to do a convention at Flashback actually soon. One night only in his Freddy makeup. Full
Freddy makeup. And made up by the original like makeup guys.
One of the KMB guys.
I'm going to be at the next convention with full frontal.
Yeah, that's what
there we go.
Yeah,
how
you're
much
signing
is
like
that
that.
worth, audience?
No, and then we were saying like for that, when somebody's doing the character, that's you know, something you're paying for.
People are debating online because the Robert Englund thing is like a $365.
Yeah, it's very expensive, but it makes sense given what it is.
We were like, you know what? It's the only time you're ever going to get to take a picture with him as Freddy.
And I'm not against people charging at all. I think that makes total sense. It's just there's a certain level. Like once people are charging $80 for something, you're kind of like, well, what? It's just a signature. You know?
Well, you know, it's funny because thinking back to Flashback in Chicago, however many years, like 11 years ago, let's say, I didn't charge anything. And then I went to a few others and didn't charge. And they sort of took me aside and said, you can't do this because it's
undercuts the other.
It does.
Exactly.
You're showing the other. It's not cool.
Yeah.
So I just charge whatever, whether it's 15 or 20 and, you know, try to give free hugs and make out kisses.
Well, and a lot of the cool ones would be like, just take a photo. Like, who cares? Like,
I do that all the time.
Yeah,
like, take a picture with me.
Exactly.
Let's hang out.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you try to make it as fun as possible.
Because it still is promotion. I mean, it should still be seen as promotion because you're cultivating a fan base that's going to support the next movie. You know?
Absolutely.
It's crazy for people to alienate that. When I see somebody do something where you're like, really? Why would you do that? You know?
Yeah, some people, you know.
Or even be unkind. Like,
Right.
I've seen a lot of the actors kind of, you know, buck up and like the ego and they're not really embracing. It's like, dude, why are you here? And in all honesty, I hate the word fan. I just think it's so condescending.
Right.
It's this hierarchy like, oh, you're the fan and you're the... No. We're all like, I'm a fan. I see certain people and I flip out and I just think we're all friends and we're all there to party and have a good time together and just eliminate that silly, weird stuff.
Yeah. That's funny. You're one of the few people that genuinely embodies like, you're not a fan, we're friends. Like the second somebody comes up to your table, I kind of feel like you are already their friends.
I have so many like really good friends who I met at conventions and maybe they really like, and it's funny because one of my best friends is Sean Whalen. And he was so weird. He started geeking out like 2 years ago in Indianapolis, the Days of the Dead. He was like, oh my God, I'm a huge. He even did like Hollywood is Calling and called, called to me.
People under the stairs.
Yeah.
People in Roach. Yeah, Roach. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Hatchet 3, I think.
Yeah. Hatchet 3, Lost, Twister.
Yeah.
I'm a fan.
Good stuff. Look at you.
Can I ask you, I want to go all the way back just for a second to the film, because did you know what the ending was when you were doing it? Or like, was that on you? It wasn't a double? Like, how was that all done at the time for your age? I'm just wondering what they're allowed to do at that age.
In the beginning, they said to my mom, we have to strap it on.
And she's like, no way.
She was like, oh, she got the part? Oh my God. No, she said no to the strap on. And Ed French on the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I love Ed French.
It's great. That's actually good. The stuff that I didn't know about on the new Blu-ray is a lot of stuff with Ed French, the effects guy. And there's actually a whole thing talking about how they did that final scene, which I find fascinating. Like they did a mold of her face.
Well, he was carving the penis.
Yeah.
And then he's like, we can't do this.
Can't do it, yeah.
But let's talk about that. What were they going to do? Have me naked with a penis?
Right.
I was still a girl. Like my girls are 7 and 9. They don't want to be naked. They don't have boobs.
Right.
And I had little boobs. You know what I mean? Like how would a 13-year-old stand there naked with a strap-on penis?
Oh, so that's what they were planning on doing?
That was the plan.
Oh, weird.
And my mom said yes. At the callback, Allison Smith, who was Annie on Broadway, she was one of the girls. There were like 10 of us. And they had to talk to each parent and say, is this cool? And so my mom clearly was like, yeah, whatever you want. And then apparently he decided to make a mold of my face and put it on an 18-year-old boy. Because if you did nudity, he had to be 18. He had to be small like me. I was tiny. I had a thin face. The mask had to fit. And they had to shave him down.
Oh, wow.
Hairless. Hello, I wasn't a hairy
And maybe
Angela.
that adds something to, because the frozen expression on your face is pretty haunting.
It just looks weird.
Yeah,
It looks
something's off, and then maybe that all added to that
But the
effect.
way it cuts to the close-up,
Yeah.
you know, it works. I mean, I think that's why that stands out.
Yeah,
as
the
much
close-up
as it
is me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that you were fully aware of what was happening,
I
story-wise. You weren't hidden.
No. I have the
Nothing's-
original script in my cupboard right
Cool.
now.
Yeah.
And it says Ricky dies in the original script. And it says Angela stands and growls, and you see she has male genitalia. She is a boy.
Now, let me ask you, as the person that was in it, and this is the debate that's gone on for years and years. I'm going to assume you've seen the movie if you're listening right now, and if not, then skip 2 minutes ahead.
Well, skip just everything we
Actually,
just talked
we're
about.
just talking about the ending. No, I mean, we're led to believe that Angela is the killer the entire time. However, people have always theorized that it's Ricky and Angela. The Blu-ray makes it very clear that it's Ricky in every single scene. That Jonathan Tierson, you could tell it's him and
Sure.
just
yeah,
about
his
like,
hand, like
him-
the real, like
the
really
hand,
him.
But I mean, the shot of, in
Yeah, with
Blu-ray
the
clarity,
wig,
with
yeah.
him in the door, it is totally him wearing a wig, and you're like, oh, that's
Weird.
Ricky.
I totally thought it was both of them
But he's
trading
not-
off.
Oh, really? The whole time?
Yeah, I just assumed it was like.
Wait, as
the two-
actors? Or wait,
No,
let's
it's
get
the character.
No,
like
we're
the
talking
cha-
about the
You thought
characters in
maybe
the movie.
Ricky and Angela
Yeah,
were
like
both
in
the
it together.
killers?
Yeah, I thought there was some
that was
duality.
that's one of the theories that's
Weird.
gone around over the years, that it's always Angela, it's Ricky and Angela.
It's
or
always
both.
in for the real, like to
Sure.
set the record straight for the real storyline of what Robert intended and what the film is supposed to portray is that it's just Angela.
Right.
However, there have been these theories, and I've thought about it. It makes sense that Ricky helps. He's got the crazy mother.
Yeah.
That's his mother.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Richard, Angela. So it
And if
makes
not
sense.
help, that he would be cleaning up after her or something.
Yeah,
He would do
helping hide it
something.
for
He's
sure.
obviously
Yeah.
doing something to clear the tracks there. Yeah. But I don't know, because then he acts so weird in Return to Sleepaway Camp where he's like, what? That's her?
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like, wait, you didn't
But you can
know?
never, those movies never, they end up like sequels or follow-ups 20 years later or whatever. They always end up explaining. They're kind of like prequels. They explain away things sometimes incorrectly.
Right.
From how you felt
Well,
when you did the first
right.
thing,
That's
I mean,
true.
I want to talk a little bit about Return to Sleepaway Camp, just because. No
How
matter-
everybody hated it?
No, I mean, I kind of like it a lot,
they?
and I've talked about it on the show before.
It was like a love-hate. I think some people liked it and some people were pissed off because it wasn't like directly, following the story.
Yeah, it looked a little rebooty. It reminded me of like the Platinum Dunes in a way. It looked a little bit
Well,
like
here's the thing. Here's my
Yeah.
theory about that is it was going to be difficult no matter what, because it's all the people involved with the first film that are trying to recapture that. So it's like you're kind of skipping over 2 and 3 and trying to do something in line with the original. I remember when I first watched it, and I was having a tough time. Like, I was watching it with my buddy Mike. I've told the story of the show before, where we're watching it, and
Mike Mendez?
No, Mike C from Icons of Fright.
He's listening though, man.
And
I'll tell you that
because
much.
Mendez is. Shout out to Mike.
Yay, Mike.
But because like it's young kids and they're being vile to each other and this and that, I was like watching it thinking like, I don't know what I think of this. I don't know if I like it. And Mike was like, what are you talking? It's the same as the original. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, it's just the original has a more operatic score. He's like, put on the first one right now. And we put it on and I'm like, holy shit, it's the same exact, it's almost beat for beat, almost the same kills. It's structurally trying to kind of maintain that. So you have this difficult thing where you try to make it too much like the first one, and it's not, you can't recapture the exact first one again. And at the same time, 2 and 3 I talked to fans over the years, 2 and 3 are the ones that most found on video and then went back to 1. So I feel like a good chunk of the fans are used to kind of that comedic Angela.
Yeah.
So then they go to that one and they think, wait a minute, this isn't like the last ones I just saw, So I just feel like no matter what you guys
I would have
couldn't
loved to have
won.
seen a real sequel, because 2 and 3, I haven't seen 3, but 2 I watched a couple nights ago, and it's fun, and it is comic, and I do like the self-referential thing, but for me, I want to see what happens to that character
right after,
like, or even a few years later, after they talk about all the psychiatry she saw for number 2 as a throwaway line. But, if you were playing that role again, it would be very interesting to see what would happen to someone who really was that person, who really did have their gender,
Well, you might see it.
closeted.
you might. Oh. Well, I was going to say...
her eyes are getting so big that I assume something's happening right now. I'm looking for subtext of this moment. Why? Is there really something? Is there really talk of doing a more direct sequel? Or is it just something that you want?
Well, you know what? There's a question.
Is your husband
that,
reading
so
The Secret again? Because I know what happened last time. I better read it quickly during this episode.
Right, here, I have it in my bag.
Okay, good.
Well, I know firsthand only because, and I'll be very vague about it, only because I know directors that were asked, but I heard rumors about the remake and a sequel. I've heard about both at this point. The remake definitely seemed like legitimate. And I know because people...
Yeah, I mean, doing sequels that long later is always a problem for studios. You know, it's always easier for them to imagine, how do we just re-update something? And I get that because you're trying to tap into a young audience who are unaware of the films that came before, you know?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think anything at this point would be really fun and probably popular. We're the last of the Mohicans in terms of the 80s slasher that has not been remade.
Yeah.
So I think wherever they want to go could be really cool. And let's
even if
wait
you took
and
a
see.
role like the mother, if you moved to becoming the abusive mother,
Hello?
how cool would that be?
I always say I want to play Aunt Martha if there's a remake. I'd love to play that. That would be fun. Great.
Yeah.
Oh,
when you embrace that, that's when you can do some really crazy stuff.
Wasn't it fun to see her on the Blu-ray, Desiree Gould, who plays Aunt Martha?
Oh my God, quite a character. She's exactly like that.
Have you got the Blu-ray, Renna?
Oh yeah,
I got to borrow.
No, I got it.
I want you to
as opposed to buy it. Did you see that? I just cheaped you out of like some royalty.
Wow.
Sorry about that.
In front of her.
But I don't download, so that's something.
Okay.
Do you still get royalties?
I still like you.
I hope so.
No.
Oh, bummer. I'm always bummed to hear how that really works.
I probably made like 3 cents on that movie. I think people believe that I've made like...
of course, yeah. That's how
because the movie was made for $335,000.
Yeah.
It made $12 million.
Yeah.
12 million.
So you got like 10 of that?
And I got 10 cents.
Yeah, deal structures are crazy.
I don't want to say anything.
I assume the director probably didn't get much of that either. It probably all went to marketing companies and...
I don't know who it went to.
Yeah,
I'm still fighting
it all went to Charles Band.
Probably somehow.
Charlie's been here, and even though he didn't have anything to do with it, somehow it ended up... We love Charlie. Charlie's great.
That's awesome.
I think if anybody, Robert definitely held on to the rights for it. Because I think he licensed 2 and 3 out to the filmmaker who made it, but it's still his. I don't know.
There hasn't been really... that's also a subgenre that was just so 80s, the camp film, you know? And it's and I don't know if that's because... I don't know, do parents still send their kids to camp?
Yeah, is camp even...
is that a thing still?
I talked to friends and they're like, oh yeah, I just sent Sean Whalen. I just sent my kids to Sleepaway Camp.
Really? Wow.
I thought people hated Sleepaway Camp.
Huh.
I'm never going camping of any sort at all.
I just can't believe that's even a real thing.
I just don't like the elements, and I like my comfy bed.
But like The Burning and Friday the 13th, there's so many movies that in the 80s that was like a normal...
That's a favorite.
Yeah, that's a really fun one. But it's like a normal thing in the 80s, and now I can't... If a movie came out now, you would have to go, oh, I think they'd almost have to comment on how it's not something you do anymore.
Yeah.
Like, oh, really? There's still camps? That would be fun if you did it like that, you know? But even Friday the 13th, it's like thinking about how you reboot something like Friday the 13th, which they're doing right now, apparently. In 3D.
Yeah, we'll see.
Not found footage all of a sudden, which is very weird.
It's found footage.
Well, it was, and it made sense because...
Yes, no.
I'm like,
Felicity keeps throwing me signals.
She winks. And he thinks they're film related. I hope otherwise. But I don't know. Anyway, I just wonder about that.
I'm like mouthing. Like, what is that?
Without telling us, do you think that if they did redo Sleepaway Camp, do you think... They would have to
said yes.
Well, okay, without telling us anything more. Michael Bay?
No.
Blumhouse?
No. All right, let me get to the questions.
Yeah, Blumhouse would be good.
Let me get to the questions. Since this was
we have a lot of questions from fans.
We've got a lot. All right. So
you have fans.
Really?
We want you to definitively
not
answer.
fans, friends.
All right,
They're your friends.
We're on Twitter with our friends. Jeremy Stover wants to know, please, what's the deal with the lady who plays your mom? What is
Desiree Gould?
Yes. What's the deal with her? From your words.
My feeling about... I just adore Desiree Gould. She's one of the sweetest, loveliest people. She played a role in a horror movie, and, am I a killer? Am I a quiet little girl killer? No. I mean, she's just that character. She was...
Are you a killer? No, I mean, do you think his question means she's just batshit in the role, or do you think he is actually concerned in real life?
No, she's a genuinely sweet woman.
Huh.
Yeah.
She's not like that character. That's the question now.
Okay.
Not at all. She's not batshit crazy.
Yeah.
My friend Jamie just says to tell her she's my hero. That can mean so many things.
Ooh.
But there you go.
Like a hero, like in bed.
Hey now.
A role model of some kind.
Jamie, what do you think?
I know. Ask Jamie. I want to know, like, in what
Can we follow
capacity.
up? This isn't live, so this could be really a long wait.
I will text her while we're
Okay.
doing this. Hold on.
I mean,
All right.
is
We got
it like
another question?
a hero, like she did good kills, or
Here, okay.
Angela?
Maybe she just thinks you're cool. Just live with it.
I'll text her in a minute and we'll get to the bottom
You want to
of
make
this.
out?
Yeah.
Hey now.
Rob's going to cry on camera, on microphone.
He does this to me every week.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
let me see.
I didn't do this with Dean Cundy.
What you did? Yeah,
You
were
and Dean
expected there.
Cundy? He's
Of course.
supposed to direct a film that I'm
Oh,
attached
cool.
to.
Hey, Scoop.
Hey, that's scoop. Yeah,
Give that
we
away.
loved his sense of humor. He's funny, but in a way
Very
that you
dry.
don't
Would we
know.
get along? Would
You
we
don't know-
make out?
Yeah, you really wouldn't. You would make out like Santa Claus.
No. He would like you. He's
very funny.
dry.
It's just
Very
dry.
sense
I
of
like
humor.
that.
It almost takes you a minute to realize
It
the
did.
joke you
It
just
did.
told.
I didn't
I'm
know he
into
was being
that.
funny.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
that. That's smart humor.
But he's
I like
really
it.
talented guy.
Okay, here we go. Questions. We're on Facebook. Ken Hanley, he's got 3 and they're pretty good.
Fangoria, he's the Fangoria marketing guy, I think, or does all the social
okay.
media.
Right
Oh,
on.
hello. What's his name?
Ken.
Oh, she turns it on now.
Everybody else go fuck yourself, Ken.
Well, this is all right. This is kind of following up on what Elric said. He said, number 1, has she talked to Hilzik at all about the 3rd Sleepaway Camp movie that he hinted at the Fango screening in
New York.
last month? So have you
Yes.
talked to him about
He
it?
just left me a message. I haven't called him back. We should play it.
Why don't,
Wouldn't that be
I got a
funny?
better
Should I
idea.
get my phone?
I think we
Should
do
I?
the conversation live. Like you call him right now.
want me to call him?
Whatever happens, just happens.
Oh
Let's
my
just roll
gosh.
it up.
Can we get him on the mic?
Yeah, that'd be fun.
He's up late.
Okay. You call him while we go through the rest of the question. You can always just put him on speaker. And
I have spoken to him about it because my husband, the big Sleepaway Camp fan, was like, I just read online that,
so he-
that he was at the screening.
He's rumor
saying,
chasing. That's funny.
Basically, he has another installment.
Mhm.
And it's always about money.
Right.
Who's going to fund these films? So
Was he content or happy with Return of Sleepaway Camp? Because
no, he wasn't content
Because I know there was a big delay of a couple of years, right?
because of the CGI.
The
Yeah.
effects and stuff like that. Yeah. So I always got a sense that maybe he wasn't as satisfied as he could have been, and maybe has the need to do another one
I think so.
to make it right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, you know, Sleepaway Camp is truly his baby. Like,
Yeah.
he loves. This is, and I adore him. I feel like he has 3 daughters. I feel like the 4th. He's my everything. My brother, my uncle, my.
Cool.
No, not that.
I wasn't even implying it.
No, he's
That's
my friend. He's my good friend.
Yeah. Still from Ken. Question 2: Sleepaway Camp the musical. Great idea or best idea?
Like beyond fucking amazing idea.
That's
There you
pretty funny.
go.
I have a penis. I have a penis.
Oh,
You
yeah,
know
it'd
what?
be a great ending.
That's pretty right.
It'd be an
this-
amazing,
Wouldn't
yeah,
that be
final.
interesting?
The
Like,
final
Angela
song.
Peter, what? Angela Peter, what?
Well, and also you
Wow.
don't get any explanation. Like you're in the movie, it ends in that moment. So to imagine there's another whole scene of a whole
There we go.
song.
Are we writing this?
After that is pretty cool.
We don't need a remake. We just need the
Yeah.
musical.
The
Oh, yeah.
musical. I'm all about it.
Let's get on
Graham
top of that.
Skipper's
That'd be
penis
cool.
is going to play you. He's a good singer, so trust me, I've cast him well.
That would be amazing.
That would be
yeah.
cool.
And number 3: if Sleepaway Camp was remade, is there any actress that you think would be a good Angela?
My daughter, Bianca.
Really?
She's 9.
Does she have any interest in the business?
She is an incredible actress. She does her school plays, and she was just Cinderella a couple of weeks ago obviously in the show Cinderella, and she has students who come up to her like, "Oh my God, it's Cinderella!" And it's so cute. She's very talented, and I believe that she has the depth and the physical, like the big eyes. That
It'd be cool if you waited a couple more years and then
Right?
you played the
She's
mother
9.
and she played that. That'd be a pretty
That
fun
would
casting.
be really. She said to me the other day, "Mom, what's the deal with Angela at the end of the film?" She wanted to know. And I
Okay,
had to-
what
I
did
had
she
to tell
know?
her
She
the
just knew
ending.
from like gossip, or
She just knew that there was some crazy ending,
right?
and she really had this need to find out what is this whole thing about Sleepaway Camp. Especially with this Blu-ray is all over my house,
Right.
you know.
Well, that's interesting. Considering that you do these movies, and Darren is a huge fan. I mean, I went over for dinner one day, and it was just like me and Darren, like little nerds in the corner, talking about every horror movie.
Oh my God, the man has a collection, correct?
He does have a collection. What are your thoughts on your kids seeing horror movies? Like what?
Oh, they love horror movies, and we have an open discussion in my home about, the entertainment value and how, what it really means. And my son, he's 4.5, and he's like, he loves the CGI and the effects and he gets it. Like Beetlejuice is his favorite movie. But my daughter is more into like Halloween, and you have to talk to them. I mean, it's really important to have a conversation. Is that
she's
Angela?
super cute. Yeah. She really is.
She'd
Yeah.
really be, and she's a, she'd be great. Like my other daughter, Lola, no, she's going to be a go-go dancer, but that's a whole other podcast.
Show her Faster Pussycat. Kill. Now that's a movie.
Exactly, or Run, Lola, Run.
Yeah, there you go.
Is that?
She's
is it
badass.
Run, Lola, Run?
With the redhead girl?
Yeah.
The girl who runs through Germany? Yeah, she's a badass.
So when do you think is the appropriate time for her to see Sleepaway Camp? How old is she now?
I mean, she's 9. I think it all depends on the child. I think she's seen parts of it, but she could watch
if you
it
did
now.
show it to her, let's say in a year or two, would you prepare her for the end, or would you just let her experience the shock?
She's completely prepared. She knows. I'd sit with her.
Yeah.
I'd talk to her, through she's ready.
And she's probably just mostly shocked that it's so small.
Did you see how
Mommy, why is it so small?
I was like,
couldn't you have just been hung? Come on, Mom.
that is true.
Yeah,
he's the
so-
real star. Where the fuck is he?
Yeah.
Where is the
he hasn't been.
penis?
I wonder if he's done. He probably isn't doing many podcasts.
He's doing porn right now.
The guy who's
The guy,
Yeah.
he's still unknown, right? He didn't take credit for it.
which is makes sense.
Yeah.
Who needs that on their rep?
Let's see.
resume.
Damon Brazil wants to know, I don't even know if you've gone on record about this, but just your opinion of what Pamela Springsteen did with Angela in 2 and 3.
I absolutely love her character, Angela, in 2 and 3. I think she's dynamite. She's hysterical, but yet she has that. There's something very convoluted. Like you can see there's so much going on. She's not just delivering these comedic, dark comedy kind of moments. She's really,
She reminded me because you're very New York. Does she remind more like a Fargo kind of character? Like,
She
oh,
does,
hey,
yeah.
oh, hey,
little
slash,
bit,
kills.
yeah.
There's
No.
something about it that, but she's got the wide eye, doe eye kind of thing.
Yeah, totally.
I'd like to hang out with her. Would that be? No, I mean,
We got to get the Angelas together.
That would be a
We're
good
gonna make this
convention.
happen.
next podcast.
Yeah.
Come on, she'd come in for a beer.
And she's a
Hope so.
photographer. All right.
Yeah. From Vince Marcol, what was the dynamic like with all the kids on set? One of my favorite things about the movie is that the kids seem so natural, just being little punks and, ball busting like we all did at that age.
The kids in
the
Sleepaway
movie, yeah.
Camp. Everybody was just friendly and fun, and it was an experience that was, obviously forever changing and incredible. We had the best time.
Were you on the younger side? There was no.
I was the youngest. Yeah, Chris Calais was like 15. Judy was 17. Johnny was 17, who played Ricky.
That's one of the charming things about the film too, though, is that they feel like real teenagers, and I think so many movies, like remember Beverly Hills 90210, like a lot of them were in their 30s playing
High school.
Yeah,
And even Friday the 13th, it's like mid to late 20s. And
Yeah,
they're
definitely,
playing like
yeah.
teenagers. We were really true to the age. And Robert has regrets about that whole killing the campers, that scene with the little kids.
Yeah, which I think is, but I mean, that's one of those, I think it's one of the most powerful moments of the movie, is just seeing all these little kids act
Really?
up. Yeah, I think it's just adds that little, it's just one of those things when you're a kid watching the movie and you see that moment, you're like, oh shit, she just totally killed a bunch of little kids.
Yeah.
yeah. When things go there, sometimes it can be
Effective.
pretty shocking.
Yeah.
But, okay. I was going to ask you guys a question because I feel like Angela is sort of, people like her
Right.
and she's picked on. And I'm not,
But maybe it's her brother who killed the kids. Ha ha.
Cousin.
That could.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You could blame it on Ricky if you want.
Yeah. It was Ricky.
Yeah, it's Ricky.
I didn't do that.
You didn't do it.
I just feel like she's sweet and sort of, it's the true revenge story,
Well, in the sequels, they make it very much, it seems to be about anyone who does something that's not polite or you're breaking a rule. Because she seems to genuinely like the one girl in part 2.
Right.
You know, she would have let her
There's a
live.
lot of boobs in it.
There is,
too.
and that was one nice thing.
You
about
like
it.
that?
It was very nipple centric. I did say, I think I even texted that to Rob last night. I'm like, I appreciate all the nipples.
Yeah, a lot
I thought that was very,
yeah.
appropriate.
Yes. I'm a double in that.
I asked my friend Joannie, who said you're her hero, about what way she meant it in, if it was the Frisky way, or because you kill people. She asks, can it be both?
Ooh.
Wow. So you
Both
just bring out the
reasons are
naturally
wrong.
flirtatious and even people over text messages.
And she says girls.
This is very interesting.
She says girls like making out. She's hot. Yeah.
Is she?
Yeah, totally.
Give her my note.
Yeah. Rob's going over there tonight. That's all I know. Congrats, Rob.
All right.
Well played, Rob.
Wow.
Luckily, she's going to hear this 2 days after you do it, and she's going to have all this regret. Oh, man, he played me.
I love it.
That's all right.
Oh boy. All right.
Oh, I wanted to ask just
You go ahead and ask. I'm
Yeah,
spent.
he's tired.
I'm tired of both of you.
Because it's such. It's probably. I'm trying to think. Is there any more? There aren't many. There's a lot of great endings to horror films, but that's definitely the most shocking ending. I can't think of anything that probably surprised people.
Like Sixth Sense. It's.
Surprised though, like where you're like, oh,
Shit.
like it just had something about it.
Did
that's
Orphan do that? The Orphan.
Yeah, Orphan. Yeah, and Orphan did it well with acting. It was mostly acting
And a little
based.
girl.
Yeah,
But those are like twist endings, and it's like, Sixth Sense was like you have to see it or whatever. But like you just say Sleepaway Camp. I remember the first time I met my friend. I was talking to my friend Jay about horror movies, and I was like, "Dude, man, you see Sleepaway Camp?" And he's like, "Dude."
Yeah.
He like makes the little
He stood out
penis
with his
thing.
little finger.
Yeah.
But
and
did you,
that's all. It's like you just remember that moment. That's
I want you to walk me through the first time you saw that moment with those 8th graders, and I'm not even joking. I'm like so interested. Well, I'm so interested, like in that moment, like how. Because I assume they don't see it coming, right? They're watching a movie. You're in it. Oh, that's so cool. Our friends in this movie.
Most of them have never seen that.
And no one has ever probably seen a movie that ends anything
Or
like
even
this.
probably a horror movie.
Right.
Like Long Island, Little
Yeah.
Kids. That's not really.
Was it kind of like a bizarre
It was
moment?
really bizarre. I remember feeling like, what? I remember feeling it was almost like an out-of-body experience because I was sitting next to my cousin, who's my best friend in the world, and grabbing her hand. And when the last shot hit, where it's like, I know it's coming, and what is the audience going to say? It was like a punch to the face. It was a boom moment. It was definitely out of, the whole audience went, whoa, whoa. There was all kinds of...
And I bet if you went to certain neighborhoods, you'd get certain like responses to the screen that would be outrageous. Did you try to then see it with normal audiences?
I went
in theaters
so often while it was in theaters. Yeah,
were some of them pretty crazy?
Oh yeah.
Because I've been to movies where I remember I think it was 28 Days Later. 28 Days Later was the first one, right? And I'm like, and I was in somewhere I'd never been, and somewhere in New York City, and I'll just never forget. It's like 5 minutes into the movie, and he's showering for the second time. He's naked. And I just heard this voice of, if I see that motherfucking guy's dick one more motherfucking time. And I just had never been in an audience where they really spoke to the movie and yelled at the movie. And especially things like that, like movies that have big surprises. That must have been fun.
Yeah.
Man.
And what's really cool about Sleepaway Camp is, aside from, I've met my husband and have a career because of it, I have a lot of friends because of it, like celebrity friends, like Jeffrey Reddick. They have screenings.
Yeah.
Tracy Toms. They're like, you have to come. Like, we have a screening, and they have this amazing group, and a lot of them haven't seen it, and they tell me, or I'm there, and it's all about, holy shit, oh my God, this is crazy.
Have you ever worn a strap on at one of these
All
parties?
the time. I will only
How
attend
great
the
a party would that be, though? If you just walk around in the corner. No, but that's the greatest ending to a party ever. Like, they turn around
That would be
and you're
really
standing
good.
there going,
Let's have a party, and I'm going to do that.
that'd be
I
pretty
have
cool.
yet to wear the strap on. I need to go to a convention and do that.
Well, because it wasn't really strapped.
Wow. There's a photo op for you.
There is.
Yeah,
I think you could charge $350.
Right?
I think that's well worth. Yeah, probably. I'm getting it for free right now. Why pay when you can get beer and?
It's strap-ons.
I'm a lazy guy. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh my God.
Now, he has a lot of notes for this interview. I'm kind of freewheeling.
I'm looking at whatever, man. You're the one that would notes.
No, here's a question I would really be curious about. Because people do suddenly you do like 25 movies, let's say. Of those, is there something that you are particularly, if people are listening who haven't seen them all? Is there something you're particularly proud of in terms of the work that you would want them to maybe seek out? And without trying to belittle the other ones you've been in, is there one in particular that you thought, man, I wish everyone saw that because that's a different side of you or whatever?
I mean, look, I've done a lot of crap. I've done a lot.
Did you notice how long I beat around that bush?
Yeah, it's
Why'd
okay.
You can say
you did a lot of shit.
I've seen horror without even knowing you were in horror because I remember the lighting in that film being pretty amazing. I haven't seen it for a long time, but it was one of those ones you're like, oh, wow, this looks like a crazy Italian film, you know?
Yeah, like an Argento.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
The lighting's very beautiful. But
I am proud of Camp Dread. I really am.
Camp Dread, that's
the
recent.
Yeah. I haven't watched it yet. That's the one with Daniel Harris, right?
I watch that.
Yeah.
You haven't seen it yet?
I have it at home.
Tonight.
I'll watch it tonight.
I'm coming over. We're doing that.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
I'm proud of that.
You're not invited, Elric.
Well, she'll be there late, but don't wait up, Rob.
Whatever. All right, I'm going to watch that one for sure.
I have Zombie Killers coming out that I'm really, really proud of, done by the same writer-director, Harrison Smith, with Billy Zane, Misha Barton, and Dee Wallace.
Oh, cool.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah,
I love Dee Wallace. I think she's a great actress.
Dee Wallace, I think, is the most incredible woman. And I'm really good friends with her daughter, Gabrielle Stone.
Right.
And I am seriously telling you right now, she is a huge star. She will be. She's one of the most talented young women I've ever met.
Wow.
Has she been in anything that we...
She has. She's been in See No Evil, Hear No Evil.
Right. She's doing...
Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder?
No,
that's a good film.
I love that movie.
Is that what it's called?
No, let me look it up.
I'm bad
it's
with...
recent.
It is recent. She's in Zombie Killers. That's coming out.
Do you have, while he looks that up, do you have a favorite Gene Wilder film? Because sometimes we like to go on a tangent at the show.
I like Charles and
Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin and the Chocolate Factory. Willy Wonka, perhaps? She's had, I'm not kidding, 8 beers.
Bring it back to horror. Gene Wilder movies.
Yeah, I love Willy Wonka.
Brewster's Millions. Just to go with Richard Pryor, Gene Wilder, same thing.
Speak No Evil was the name of the movie she just did.
And
she's in that, not you.
She's in that.
She's in that.
Yeah, Gabrielle Stone. Yes.
I think we've lost her. Our guest has just fallen down. She's gone. But we're still
amazing.
here.
I'm blaming Elric for all this.
She's. I hung out with her yesterday, and I said, "You are just, tremendous."
Did you ever? I guess Chris Stone was gone a long time. Did you ever meet him?
No.
He's good too. Yeah, they were
amazing couple.
We talk about Cujo on here a lot because the performances are just
outrageous.
I honestly think it might be my favorite portrayal of a mother in film, not just horror.
Yeah,
that's me and my son.
It's Dee
Wallace, me and my dog. No, Dee Wallace is just. She's like that. I've been to her home and parties, and she's just kind of like this light, You've met her, She's a beautiful person. She's
really good person.
And she's like into healing and stuff now, like crystal healing.
She's
and all
real.
that.
That's how I connect.
Right.
Can't do this fake bullshit.
Yeah. And I met her at Dee Wallace at like a convention as like a fan or whatever, and she was totally sweet. Amazing. So,
is that the fan questions out of the way?
Yeah, pretty much.
I know there's
everything else we already covered.
Kids? You want to talk about any kids?
Yeah, I want to talk about child performances a little bit.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do children in horror.
Because obviously there's some you almost don't even... we'll go over the obvious ones.
Right.
Things like Linda. Well, Linda Blair's interesting because on one hand, it's just phenomenal. Like, it's crazy to look at that and go, oh, that was a child. But
How old was she?
It's under
13, 14?
I thought it might have been under 13. But the story, I don't know if that story's true, but that she would have won the Oscar for that had Eileen Dietz not... this is all just gossip. But had Eileen Dietz not said that she had done those key scenes, certain key scenes, which is ridiculous to strip someone of the Oscar because there was a stand-in for a child for a couple scenes. And, the puking and some of the stabbing... but I think, and I know that's what I remember.
I lost the Oscar because it wasn't really my
wasn't your penis.
Your penis.
Well, no, I heard.
I didn't want to say anything, but he came forward at that moment.
At that moment. But no, I know Friedkin did. There was a story about Friedkin saying that he was so angry at Eileen Dietz about that, which just to me seems a little unfair. But it's possible that people are that fickle, when they're deciding awards. Either way, that's like a different level.
And do you think that Linda Blair, I'm a fan and I like her movies, but do you think
I don't think
she's ever been as good.
No, I mean, she's fun in movies like Chain Heat and Savage Streets and all, but she's not. I've never seen her where I've said, "Oh, you're a great actress." But that's some of those child actors.
I was just going to bring up how
aren't really actors; they're just being.
You're just pretending. Like think about when you're a child and you're like, I see my kids or your kids. I'm sure
authentic.
Playing with like dolls, and it's real. It's like sort of this road they're portraying through themselves. Like, oh, the dolls and the it's beautiful. I think as a child actor, that's what you're really doing. And then suddenly you're conditioned as a person and all the layers come on, which you learn in acting school to take them all down again. But ultimately, when you grow up, it's hard to go back to that natural state. Yeah. So many children, Jodie Foster did a beautiful transition from
there
being
aren't many
a child.
Though, right?
She sort of, and it's all in just the type of personality you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's obviously you have to go through a lot, and I think that I know people who would only cast children who were non-actors because they believe they're going to get something pure, and that
more
acting will force them and feel effective. Unnatural. But there's there's a real mix. If we start talking about some of these great performances,
well, the Bad Seed to me is like the best little badass girl.
Those are those seem like the obvious one. Bad Seed.
Yeah, we'll throw out those first.
The Omen, obviously.
Because the thing about the Omen is that there's no camp to that person. For a little kid, that performance is really serious. It's riveting. Yeah, and he's really intense.
Yeah.
Obviously, Cujo, we've just been talking about the guy from Who's the Boss. The thing about
Danny
his performance,
he is really good.
Is he in that moment?
The guy from Who's the Boss?
Sorry, not Tony Danza, because he is the boss. No, the little blonde guy.
I love him. He's incredible.
But in that, he's like the thing you feel for him is he's very fragile, and you feel that feel like really. You feel like, oh God, if she doesn't step up, he's done. He can't survive this.
Absolutely. And that's also, speaking about Dee Wallace, that's how incredible she is. I mean, just as the mom in E.T.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, she's the caregiver.
Yeah, there's a few in a row that she did that really worked like
powerful.
That. Yeah, they're all really strong.
More recently, Orphan. That actress in it.
Oh,
was she young?
She's like 10.
That was
not in real life though.
Yeah, that little girl. She's outrageous. Super young.
What is the end? Is that all makeup? It's
makeup and CG. Yeah, they did some CG on her to make her look older.
That's incredible.
I thought it was the opposite. I thought she was like a 30-year-old, and it was for real.
And I may have told this already, but I worked for the press junket for that when it came out.
Tell us.
And when she came in, first of all, I was unsettled because I just watched the movie.
Yeah, it's so sexual. It's like
10, 11-year-old girl walking into the room that just messed up some shit.
Yeah.
And she's not Russian or whatever it is. She has a Russian accent in the movie. But she sat down, and within 2 seconds of her talking, you realize she's the smartest girl in the room, smartest person. She's just so sharp and intelligent for a girl at that age. And then she started going into all this stuff like, I studied European patterns of how they move their tongues and stuff, and that's how I did the accent. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, this little girl's like a genius.
Oh, that's crazy.
But is that real?
But she's really good.
I just can't imagine a child knowing that.
She's the real deal, yeah. She's super smart.
Where is she from? American or?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And was she sweet? Was
she seemed nice, Yeah, she seemed,
I'm mesmerized by that.
That's an incredible performance. I love that.
That was outrageous.
That film was great.
The weird thing is, and I mean, she talked about this in the middle of the junket. Like, it's really difficult for an actress at that age that's trying to get work to get a role like that. So she relished in doing Orphan, and it's a shame that she's probably done a few little things since, but I haven't seen her or anything. I was excited because she was attached as the lead of Suspiria for a while.
Yeah, that's right. Which would have been fun.
David Gordon Green version of it, which is probably never going to happen now.
Yeah.
But it'd be interesting to see her work now, because now she's a couple years older. And
I was just going to say, and so much time has passed where we've sort of, that heat from that movie has settled.
So she can play anything now.
She's probably
she could bounce back.
She could play Angela in the.
Well, and the thing about that film that I always wish people would watch is like, this is what happens when you get good actors. Like that film to me is like on the plot kind of thin. You get Peter Sarsgaard, you get real actors in there,
and you buy it.
You buy it. You buy what they're talking about. You buy the relationships. It's a really well performed film.
Vera, what's her name?
Farmiga, and they're married, right? Peter Sarsgaard and her.
Are they? Get the hell out of here!
Stop yourself.
I'm 99%
Is that a marriage like ours, or is that
no? Yeah, exactly. No, I'm pretty sure they might have hooked up after that film. I'm 100% sure. Yeah, we are doing a movie.
Stop making me jokes.
Hold on. No, I'm 90% sure that this is truth. Unless, I mean, you didn't go off with the Orphan, I hope. 10-year-old. I know, I'm genuinely shocked about the 10-year-old thing. A little disturbed about my feelings. I'm going to throw out Danny Lloyd from The Shining. Less about it being a great performance and more being a great persona.
How about the twins?
Oh, yeah, the twins. I mean, and that's a good case of like, it's not about acting. It's just about him being in those scenes and biking this and him reacting. From a directing perspective, it's like Kubrick clearly just wants this kid, that innocence in that face, just react to stuff. He doesn't want you to act. And he's so good. You know, you really, that's what works about that movie. The camera movement and that boy's face.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You know?
And going back to Danielle Harris.
Oh, yeah, in the Halloween.
Yeah, I mean,
amazing.
Halloween 4
I think
and
she
5.
turned 9, like on.
Yeah,
4.
she was. Yeah, I mean, you look back on those movies and the age that she was, and then seeing some of the behind the scenes footage on 5, I think, where she's kind of running around and acting like a little adult. It's pretty amazing seeing her performance and the fact that she was able to bounce back into the business and kind of stay in the Halloween universe.
Career.
Yeah, and even direct a little.
Yeah,
you know, starting
and
to
do
direct.
mainstream.
Yeah.
I mean, our favorite movie at home is like Don't Tell Mama the Baby's
yeah.
dead.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Roseanne, she did.
Roseanne.
She was terrific on Roseanne.
Oh, I didn't know she was in Roseanne. I didn't know she was in
Lola,
Roseanne.
yeah.
That's cool.
She was the neighbor. Yeah, the little sassy hottie.
One of my favorites is Small. You go for it.
Oh, I was gonna say, you know, I'm thinking more in terms of, you know, ensembles of kids. You know, I guess the quintessential one is like Lord of the Flies. Although maybe you could speak on this because I'm only familiar with the 1990 remake. That's the one I vaguely remember coming out when I was young.
There's a British.
I've never seen the original '63 version. That
Yeah,
Criterion
I remember seeing it in an English class when I was like 15 or something, and it being really strong.
But
Peter Brook directed. I can't remember.
The thing about something like that, and then
Children of the Corn.
Children of the Corn,
Village of the Damned.
which Village of the Damned,
and then like fringe things like you know the other best ensemble ever is not a straight horror, but it's the Goonies, and then Stand by Me,
Stand by Me,
which are both kind of linked. You know, they're both Goonies and Stand by Me.
Goonies to me is scary. Like
No, it is, and
my
it's got
kids
those.
love
It's an
it.
adventure film, but it has a horror
very
element.
dark.
Right.
But I remember seeing that when I was really young, thinking that's the best thing I've ever. Like the adventure of it.
I'm
it's not straight
more
horror.
on the Monster Squad camp than the Goonies camp.
Okay.
Like
I like both. You know?
Yeah.
I like both. One of my favorite performances, and it's fringe, kind of more your age, but where she was like a teen, but it's very sexual. Her performance, because it's about a teen playing a sexual character, and it's Spider Baby. And I had to look up. She's the dark-haired one, Jill Banner, and she died very early. She I do. But she's like, I mean, I feel bad. It's kind of weird to even talk about, you know, I don't know how old she was in that role, but on one hand, you're like, watch her kind of desiring, but then when you see her when she's alone, there's this act as a viewer watching it going, oh, wow, there's something really attractive and seductive. And then when I see her with an adult man who's like, say he's 40, you then pull back and realize what you're watching, which is a young girl pretending to be older. And it's a very interesting thing. But she's one of those presences that I think she could have had a big career, but she was really close to here. She died in a car accident when she was like 35. A drunk driver on a truck plowed through her car, like right where I drive home from here, every day. I was just looking it up before we came, but she was like, you know, at the time, really one of those people in that movie. If you watch that film, just even the opening scene, she's something kind of mesmerizing about this girl, and I don't know how old she was in it, but
kind of like Natalie Portman in The Professional.
Oh, I mean, that's just an incredible.
Exactly,
she's playing a sexual
and it was like
thing.
there is no way this could be a child.
Yeah, and no way that could have gotten made in America.
Yeah,
you know, because it's got this
That's
French
true.
sensibility.
That's true.
You know.
Absolutely.
But it is it's an incredible performance. You know,
that's one of the most outrageous young. I know it's not horror, but it's.
And Brooke Shields,
Oh,
and
yeah,
Alice Sweet Alice. You know, I remember seeing that before I knew who she was. And
that's Alfred Soule, who's cousins with Dante Tomascelli.
Yeah, that's true.
So Dante wanted to remake Alice Sweet Alice.
Yeah, I mean, I think that somebody really could. It's actually a really interesting film. Yeah.
The ones I wanted to mention, I've mentioned on the show before, and it's not really horror, but it's got that kind of aesthetic, that like Lord of the Flies aesthetic, is Summer Camp Nightmare, which I only remember being on VHS. It starred Chuck Connors, and it's like about a group of kids at a camp that, like, you know, the adults, something happens to the adults, so they take it over. And, you know, I just remember it being kind of, I haven't seen it since I was a kid, and I just remember it having an effect on me, but mainly because Chuck Connors is an odd-looking character that was scary. But I just realized it was written by Penelope Spheris, who directed.
She's an MT. Didn't
she directed Wayne's World and Suburbia.
Yeah,
it was
very
one of
cool.
those, like
Wow.
that. Which is funny because she also
Suburbia show or Suburbia the movie is
the
original.
old Roger Corman movie. There's an old one called Suburbia with a bunch of punk kids.
Okay.
Weird.
I didn't know that. Yeah, I've seen the link.
And she also directed a movie that I wanted to mention that kind of fits into this called The Boys Next Door. It's always been in the cult section. It's a teenage Charlie Sheen and Maxwell Caulfield, and it was written by Glenn Morgan.
I have a big crush on him.
Oh, really?
I was just having dinner with David Dakota and David Del Valle, and they were like, "We know him." I'm like,
and since that dinner you had, Dakota's made 15 movies, even if it was yesterday.
I know, and I still haven't been in one.
Right? Oh, that's
I'm
shocking.
like, David, I love you.
Maybe you can't pay enough.
Soon enough, but no, The Boys Next Door. Really interesting movie. It was written by Glenn Morgan and James Wan.
Oh yeah, the X-Files guys.
X-Files, Final Destination.
I love James Wan.
And,
have I said that?
What's that?
Yeah. Listen up, James Wong. She'd say.
But it's been loosely based on a true story of these two teenagers that kind of went on a killing spree, and it's almost like a teenage version of Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, and it's really interesting, really weird, messed up little movie, and again, Charlie Sheen had a very, very young, one of his first things. So I'd recommend that.
Before he was with Ginger Lynn, my friend.
Oh yeah. Oh really?
Before.
I think the most believable kid performance in the history of horror is Brian Andrews as Tommy Doyle in Halloween. Because that kid is like, there's not a false beat in his performance. Like he's like that kid who just wants to watch a movie on Halloween and hang out with the girl, and everything about it doesn't feel forced. Yeah. And it's so, I don't know, I didn't really think about it till I had him as a guest on Inside Horror, one of the last episodes, I think it might be the last episode we did. And I hadn't really thought about it, and I rewatched the film thinking about him because I have to talk to him. And I was watching it going, yeah, you're like, just a perfect kid. You're probably like what I would think I would have been like in that if I was a kid in that movie.
Right.
By the way,
when we finally get to watch 3 O'Clock High.
Okay, is he in that?
He's in it very briefly, so I'll be able to point it out to you.
But the best, and this is more teen, I haven't seen this for a long time, so I hope he even fits into that. But I think one of the best young male performances I've ever seen was Martin. In Romero's Martin, which is the kind of anti-horror, in a sense. But that performance is all you're watching for the whole time. Yeah. And I don't know how, I'll have to look it up, but he might be 18 or something. I don't know. But it's a very...
But that's still young.
Yeah, it is. It's still young. It's still not professional. You haven't gone through the machine at that point. And there's little ones like, Salem's Lot, the original. The kids are fun to watch. Sometimes you don't know if it's good acting or if it's just enough to get you invested, because they're just real.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Pet Sematary.
Yeah, that's scary.
Miko Hughes.
I think Haley Joel Osment in
of course,
amazing. Amazing.
And then probably the best too, like in the last 10 years, Let the Right One In.
Yeah,
there's almost nothing that can touch the naturalism between and the chemistry. And it's a weird love chemistry between two children. Like, if you told me they're going to be together for the rest of life, you're like, sure.
Yeah, we're talking about the original, not the remake.
Which was also good. Their performances are still great in the remake, but it's just too close to the original. In timing, I
always tell people about the original. Like, you could take out the vampire element, and it's just two 12-year-old kids falling in love with each other. Yeah, and they both sell it really beautifully. True.
And I also really like Jennifer Connelly when she's young. Like Phenomena. Well, Phenomena and Labyrinth.
I love her now too.
In Argento, she's a little blank, but there's something that works with that. Like the less you do in a way as a young actor, the more you can kind of buy into it. And she's got this wide-eyed, what could this be? And in Labyrinth, she's just sullen. It's amazing.
Like it's another character that's like very deep. They don't even have to do much. Yeah, you're kind of drawn in.
Yeah, I mean Labyrinth is like wow. Like she really found the chemistry between her and Bowie. You're like. I mean, that's creepy. If we look at it from an adult side, it's a little weird.
It is
and it's
creepy.
a Jim Henson film. It's a little weird.
It's David Bowie. He can get away with whatever.
Yeah, but those balls. He keeps twirling his balls. It's pretty remarkable. But and then Ring, and there's a million. One I would have thought you would bring up, and you might now, would have been Child's Play. The first film.
Oh yeah.
You know what? I didn't even. I don't know why that just because I literally just watched not the last one, the Seed of Chucky, which is terrible. But I don't like that one. I like all the other ones. Felissa's looking at me like
I'm just I love
looking crazy.
But the first one, it's like that's why you buy the movie.
Yeah, the kid is great.
It's because the kid feels like he's a real kid.
Yeah. And even in the second one, Alex Vincent, he's really great in both of them.
I'd have to see that. Oh, he's in this. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'd have
both.
to see that.
He did those two back to back.
Yeah.
The only other ones I was going to bring up was The Children from 2008, which we've mentioned on the show before.
I don't think I've seen that.
It's a pretty wacky movie. It was directed by Tom Shankland. And it takes place like on a Christmas weekend, or it's just the winter, where a bunch of parents are out in a cabin, and there's some sort of infection or flu going around that only infects their kids and makes them scream like crazy and then just want to kill everybody.
Is that annoying, or is that?
Yeah, it sounds pretty annoying.
It really is.
It happened at my house.
But that's part like the first half, 30, 40 minutes, just these kids being sick and screaming. It just makes you so on edge. So then when they start doing really like fucked up shit, you're just like, I'm like, yep, never having kids.
I don't
I'll
like.
let you guys handle that.
I'll tell you a weird thing. I think I've talked about this before. I no longer really like the creepy kid movies.
Really?
Like, at the time,
is it because you have children?
It could be. I can't.
I think so.
It could be that, or it could be that it's been done too many times.
Yeah,
like when I saw Sinister, which I thought was a brilliantly directed film,
Yeah.
like probably the best of that year. When it got to spoilers. If you haven't seen Sinister yet, don't listen for it. When it got to the very end, I was just like, it just doesn't unnerve me anymore. The monster is scary, like that thing they present. But as soon as it's actually the children pulling off the murders, even though it's still a clever idea, I like that about it. It no longer scared me, and it could again, who knows as a person if it's that shift to parenthood where it no longer scares me. But I like to see someone push a little beyond that now, because I bet we could count the number of supernatural horror films that end up with it's the possessed child or scary. I mean, that was the cool thing about Angela, in that it was an actual surprise exactly how it all plays out, rather than just, it's a possessed kid, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't know, something about scary kids late. I can't think of the last time, but Orphan, and then...
Yeah, but that didn't scare me.
And she's not a creepy
kid.
kid.
Entertaining, thrilling movie, yeah.
And that she's meant to be an adult pretending to be a kid, right? So
yeah, but I mean, the first time you watch it, you don't think that. But,
No, you don't,
But I
no.
still wasn't scared of her.
No.
I was just like, oh man, she's messed up. I don't want
it's more
kids.
messed up. It's more psychological, I guess,
Yeah.
as a thriller,
Yeah.
Crazy.
But it's always interesting to see, and it's a tough one. There probably hasn't been a lot of kid actors who would say have done multiple great kid performances as children. There probably is less. That's probably something I can't even off the top of my head really think of many.
Yeah, I can't at all.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm drawing a blank.
Danny
Blank.
Pintura. He was doing a lot.
yeah.
Danny
From
Danny
Cujo.
Pintura.
Oh, yeah. From
the-
Cujo and
The boss.
He's the boss. Yeah,
he was the
he
boss.
was the boss. But then I guess you
Really
become an
impressive.
actor, and then you kind of you go into the machine, and then
Yeah.
You do.
with agents and managers, I'm sure
Like
it's hard to
Corey
remain.
Feldman.
Yeah.
I will bring up one. I have a board. This is the last person I want to talk about from me personally. His name's Giovanni Fraser. I have a love-hate relationship.
Who is this? Is this
You're going to know.
The blonde kid from all
Yes.
the Fulci movies?
There's a blonde kid from all these Italian horror films. Actually, there's a couple who have been in a lot of this film, but
And
this
you
one
don't like
particularly. Yeah, I kind of hate him.
I kind of hate him too.
I kind of hate him,
Why?
and yet now, as I grew up, I hated him when I was young. I would watch him go, I hate this kid.
What was it about?
He has a kind of it's probably the dubbing.
Yeah,
in
he's
reality,
dubbed.
it's
He's
probably
not
like
real
bad
dubbed.
dubbing.
That's why.
But he's in quite a few movies. The main one I remember particularly not liking is House by Cemetery.
Yeah.
But then he's quite good in Blade in the Dark.
Well, because he's in the opening scene.
Yeah, and he's in a lot, Manhattan Baby, a lot of other things. But he's in this one period where he's just like, obviously he was the guy to go to in that period.
The kid.
He's not the same kid as in Shock, which surprised me. I thought it was the same kid. But there's something, I think I really hated him at the time when I was young, and I've grown to now go, I miss that quality.
You miss hating
Giovanni.
kids.
I miss you, Giovanni.
Yeah. Well, he evoked something.
He did.
you know?
He did. He had a quality that was kind of interesting and kind of
Definitely.
obnoxious, and he would always get into everything.
Right.
But it's funny. He was just one of the few kid actors that came to mind
Right. Okay.
when I was thinking of, that's really, something memorable at least. you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we've talked about kid
We got
performances,
it. We got it covered.
you know?
We love
All
all
righty.
these kids.
All right, let's fuck. We'll see you next week, guys.
Okay, bye-bye.
Shit.
That's going to be the best ending to any show we'll
Oh
ever
my
do.
God.
I just throw it out
I
there.
love that
never
ending.
wanna be
Funnily
that.
enough, I really had to go to the bathroom, so I'd be incapable even if I...
I love that you have an explanation.
Hey, Mom, spoiler alert. Don't listen to this episode.
Wow. Well, we'll be
Anyway.
back next week with 2 more women.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Who?
So you can
Clearly, we don't have
Can
enough
I
women on
come
this
by?
show.
Frisky again.
It is, yeah. Oh, maybe 3
What
if Rebecca
women?
returns.
We're gonna have Heidi Honeycutt.
Oh, I love
Yep,
Heidi.
who runs
Heidi.
formerly Viscera Film Festival, but now
Yeah.
Etheria.
Etheria, which we're going to be
And
talking about that with Axel Carolyn.
Carolyn, who has her
Directed.
feature film premiering at that festival
Yes.
called Soulmate.
Soulmate.
And she's
I've
a
seen
really
it.
and she has
Good.
a really cool short that we showed, The Halloween Kid.
Yeah.
And she's married to Neil Marshall.
Yeah. It'd be fun to have them
Who's awesome.
on. Yeah.
Very
So
cool.
good stuff.
Melissa, anything that you need to pimp?
Oh yeah. Before we go,
I'm always
you.
pimping everything.
anything we need to be looking out for right now?
I'm doing a new movie called Reservoir with Jonathan Tiersten and Frank Sorrentino, who plays Little Peter. He plays me.
Oh, weird.
He's Mike the Situation from Jersey Shore's brother.
Yeah. That's
Oh, weird.
little
And they have
tidbit.
isn't that weird?
Yeah.
And they have their own reality show premiering July 15th on TVG.
weird.
I'm
course.
pimping his stuff.
Weird.
But there's a lot of Sleepaway Camp in that show because his storyline is his career, and he was Little Peter. So they go to the New York premiere for the Sleepaway Camp screening, and anyhow, so we're doing this movie Reservoir together. My movie that I produced, No Solicitors, is coming out very soon, and with Eric Roberts and Beverly Randolph and Fangoria. Produced, baby.
Really?
I was the boss.
Cool.
Whoa.
Cool.
I was tough.
Moving on up.
Fucking, I handed out crackers. And then The Zombie Killers, Elephant's Graveyard, is that's a terrific zombie movie with Dee Wallace.
Oh, cool.
Billy
Right
Zane.
on.
All right.
Where can people find you online?
Please check me out I have two, I refuse to do like the fan page. So I
Right.
have two
Two
Facebook.
Facebooks. That's
With
right.
lots of friends.
I'm friends with one of them. I can't.
I have
remember.
8,000.
Oh wow. Wow.
So I have Felissa Rose Esposito Miller, and then I just have plain old Felissa Rose. And Twitter, I don't know what Felissa Rose.
It's like 123 or something. Whatever.
I think,
I'll
and
tweet
Instagram,
you.
I'm Felissa Rose 123.
That's it.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Find
thank
Felissa.
you.
She's
pretty
good
cool.
people.
We had a lot of fun tonight,
This was
as
so
you could
fun.
probably hear.
Thank
Yes.
you for
This
having
This is like
me.
a borderline our debate episode when it came to drinking.
I love
Drank
this.
more than the guys that
We
came in
did.
that day.
I'm gonna have a bathroom break, and then we're
You
gonna
do
come
that.
back and bring the love.
Yes.
So we'll see you next week.
You don't get to hear the love, folks.
You don't get to hear it. This is where the show
Next
ends.
time.
I'll
Park
take
is gonna
some
watch.
All
pictures.
right.
We'll see you next week. Barry Whited.